Megan Coe claims ex-boyfriend Ryan Anderson owes for loans to buy a car and to pay his DUI fines.
Mr. Anderson, you have this petrified look on your face.
Oh,
sir.
I'm not petrified at all.
Let's see what we can do about that.
Okay.
Miss Coe is a girlfriend of yours?
Ex.
I said, I want you to listen very carefully. Put on your listening ears,
Sorry.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, Your Honor.
I said Miss Coe was a girlfriend of yours, correct?
Yes.
And you knew her for a long time, but got into sort of a more committed relationship around 2003. Sometime, according to you, Miss Coe, in 2005, you loaned the defendant $2,000.
Correct.
Now you want that money back.
That's right.
Mr. Anderson says, never any discussion of paying you the money back? It was a gift?
Correct.
She gave you $2,000 when, Mr. Anderson?
It was approximately September of 2005.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, we were.
What was the money for?
Well, it was some fines that I had occurred
What kind of fines?
through the court system.
What kind of fines?
They were for DUI conviction.
How much were the fines?
Approximately $900.
Did you pay any of the fines, sir?
I had paid some previously, and those were the remaining balance.
How much did you pay?
The total fines were about $2,800.
Is this the first DUI that you had had?
I had two within a short period of time.
That's why the fines were so high.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid
Your Honor?
$2,100, yes.
You paid $2,100.
The DUIs
Shh. I assume that you have something that's going to indicate that that's not the case. I'll look at it in a minute, Ms. Coe. So why did you need the $900 from Ms. Coe?
I currently had no license, and I had to pay the fees off to acquire my license again. So I needed the money to pay off the fees to get my license to drive.
Okay.
And with the hours I was working, it was tough on Megan to get me to work and back from where we were living.
So you must have said something to her. You had to have said something to her, because otherwise she'd have to be clairvoyant to know that
Well,
you needed
she was fully aware.
Shh. She'd have to be clairvoyant to know that you needed $900, so that had to come a point when you said to her something like, I need $900 to pay for the rest of the fines.
Well, we were in a committed relationship at the time.
I don't care if we're committed relationship. I'm talking about words, spoken words.
I understand that. So there's going to be words exchanged knowing, well, how come you're not driving? Well, I'm not driving because I
Well,
still
that's what I want to know. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
That's what I want to know, sir.
Yes.
I want to know what the conversation was, what you said,
Yes.
and what she said.
Megan knew of my circumstances.
Don't tell me what she knew. I want to know what you said.
Okay, Megan knew because of words being exchanged to each other.
I want the words.
I had told Megan that I had received 2 DUIs in the past, and I still owed an amount of $900 that I had to pay to acquire my license.
And she said to you?
And it came to a point where she told me when I was eligible for that she would help me pay for those fines.
And what did you say to her?
That I said that would be great. I could use that, then I could get a car, and I could get my license.
And she said, fine.
Yes.
And that's when she gave you the $900.
That's when the $900 came into play for the fees, yes.
And what was the other money she gave you?
Apparently, she paid $1,000 for a 1983 GMC Jimmy.
What do you mean apparently? What is that?
I've never seen a receipt or a bill of sale for it.
Well, who got the Jimmy?
I drive the Jimmy. The registration's in my name.
How did you get the car, sir?
Megan knew somebody who was selling the vehicle, and she told me that she had given the gentleman $1,000 for the 1983 Jimmy. Okay, I never saw a bill of sale.
And how did she give you the car?
He drove the car to my house. I looked at it and said, okay, not a mechanic or anything, didn't look under the hood, didn't do any of that. Looked at it, it was in, good condition for a 1983, had low miles. It's like, all right, $1,000, that's a good deal. The book value is $1,500. No, that's not a problem. So she gave me the keys, went down as soon as I could with the fees paid, and got my license and got the car registered under my name.
Okay, and that's the money?
Yes.
So it's $1,900?
Approximately $1,900, yes.
Go.
All right.
Let's start with the DUI convictions and the fees. You were dying to tell me something.
I have receipts for the payment of the fees, and it's over $900. I went and paid myself in cash, went to the courthouse for him because he had no transportation. Do you want to see them, the receipts?
No, I believe it. He says that you paid them.
Also, it was never a gift to him. It was fully intended to be a loan. I did it to help him out so he could get his license so I would not have to drive him around.
Just tell me the conversation, madam.
In September, he was eligible to get his license back. And so he was in the mix of trying to get his license back. He had these DUI fines that he needed to pay off. So I told him that I would loan him $900+ to pay off his DUI fines. And he would to pay me back in monthly payments and with his January of 2006 tax refund.
Okay, did he do that?
No.
So he didn't pay you back in January 2006. When did you and Mr. Anderson separate?
January of 2006.
Tell me how that came about.
Well, Mr. Anderson's continues to drink excessively and black out, verbally pretty much assault me and pretty much say rude things to me. It pretty much came to the point the last night I was there that I had to sleep in front of the door so he would not leave and drink and drive again.
Okay, so the fines you paid, and what about the car? How did that come about?
He needed a car. I told him that I would loan him $1,000 and he would pay me back the same way as the DUI fines.
How did you find the car?
My friend was selling his GMC Jimmy. It was $1,000. I asked him if I could buy it from him for Ryan, and he said yes.
And you gave him a check?
I gave him the check.
And he gave you the keys?
He gave me the keys and the title.
And the title. And then you drove it home, or did he drive it home?
Nathan drove it home. The owner.
And where was Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Anderson was at the apartment.
Okay. Tell me what happened when you drove up.
I was like, here's the GMC Jimmy. What do you think of it? I think it's a great car for $1,000. I don't think you're going to be able to find something better for $1,000. And he agreed with me.
That's pretty much what he said? Mm-hmm. Was he working?
Yes, working full-time.
Just a second. September, October, November, December, he was working full-time. He now had a car.
Right.
How much of this $1,900 did he pay back to you?
Zero.
That's because it wasn't a loan. That's because it became a loan when you decided it was over. Because if it was a loan, he would have paid you $50 a month, $60 a month, $100 a month, $25 a week. He would have paid you back something between September and January.
He made excuses as to why he could not pay me back. He couldn't afford going to school.
Then you should have thrown him out. What you did with the car was you spent $1,000 on a car, and then you came home and surprised him. That's what you did. You didn't take him to buy the car. You didn't show him the car before you purchased it. You purchased a car for $1,000, and you came home and said, I got you wheels so that you could drive yourself to and from your job so that I don't have to do it anymore. And if the romance hadn't been over, he wouldn't have paid you back anything.
We continued to have conversations after January of 2006. On the telephone. I have a witness hearing me speak to him. I have a letter stating all the information from the maker of the transactions I did, having conversations with him, making payments.
And B, he's going to testify as to what you said to him on the telephone?
As into the payment arrangements that we have discussed payments on the phone, and he makes excuses every time why he cannot make a payment to me. He was supposed to also pay me with tuition reimbursements from his work. He always made an excuse. He had other bills to pay, so forth and so forth. And that is why I took it to small claims.
A year and a half later, a year and a half after you laid out $1,900.
Well, I told him that he had the chance to pay me, and after a quarter of a year, then I would take him to small claims.
After the romance is over, madam, is not the time to say now you have 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. I mean, I'm sympathetic with you, but you were in love with the guy, and you thought your relationship was going someplace, and you wanted him to have the means to get to work.
So because I did him a favor, I shouldn't get paid back a loan that we agreed. We had a verbal agreement.
Listen, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not you, who are sharing a home and having an intimate relationship with somebody, has said to them, this is a loan. You will pay me back in January out of your income tax returns. This is a loan. I am giving you $1,000 towards a car, but you go and buy the car, you purchase the car, you come back, you show him the car, and give him the keys. That's not a loan for a car. So, Ms. Coe, what I'm telling you is, I have to make a judgment. I'm sympathetic with you. I'm sympathetic with you. You're out $1,900, and if he had any moral fiber, he would pay you back. But if you gave him this money in September, and from September to January, he was working full-time and made absolutely no attempt to pay you back a nickel, not $5, and you tolerated that, I have to assume it was not a loan. Period. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Eugene Tonda says the mother of his children, Amanda Petrie, owes for a loan to move out of his house. Amanda claims Eugene put her out of the home when she was 8.5 months pregnant.
Mr. Tonda, you and Miss Petrie have 2 children together. You've never been married. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are your children?
4 and 2.5, almost 3.
And in what state did you live?
Minnesota.
Where do you live now?
I live in Texas. That's where I'm from.
Where do you live now?
I still reside in Minnesota.
Your complaint, Mr. Tonda, alleges a loan to the defendant, which she was paying for several years. And then when she left Minnesota with your children and moved to Texas, she stopped paying the loan. You want her to continue paying the loan.
Correct.
Ms. Petrie says that she was coerced into signing a paper or agreeing to repay this money. It was never intended to be a loan. And now that she's in Texas, she's not paying you another dime. Let's see. When did you make this loan and what was it for, sir?
I originally took out the loan, Your Honor, in March of 2004. It was to get Amanda into an apartment of her own. She was living with me, but we were not together at the time. She had just moved back from North Carolina, where she had relocated to go live with her sister for a while.
And she took your child with her?
Yes, at the time we had just our son, Gino.
Were you happy about her going to live with her sister?
No, not at all.
Actually, his exact words were, "I don't care." My sister was standing next to me. He wasn't involved. He wasn't paying child support.
Well, he must have been together with him at some point if your sister was in the room when he said, "I don't care."
I went and told him, and she came with me.
No.
You told him what?
That I was thinking of moving to North Carolina, that he and I didn't get along. He was verbally and emotionally abusive, and it wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for our son. He wasn't paying support at the time, and that I needed a fresh start.
And he said?
And he said, "I don't care, whatever."
Actually, Your Honor, that's not true at all. I was paying support to her directly. And the manner in which she broke this news to me was, we were actually at a bowling alley, and she had got furiated about some silly thing and then said, "Well, I'm moving to North Carolina," and just picked up and walked away. And it wasn't like a calm, cool, collected.
Was it in the bowling alley that you told him this?
I did tell him.
Fine. Got it. Okay. Then you went to North Carolina. That didn't work out.
And he wasn't paying child support.
Moved back to Minnesota at what point?
I moved back at the end of November of '03. He convinced me to move back. We had found out I was pregnant with our daughter now, and I wasn't going to move back, and he convinced me to move back, that he had made mistakes and he was going to be more involved. And then a week after we moved back, he had decided that living in his house was too much of a family unit, and we just argued all the time. And then in March of '04, 3 weeks before I was due with our daughter, he kicked us out. He didn't take the loan out to help me. I wasn't searching for an apartment. I had no job at the time. I was due in 3 weeks. He took it out, didn't discuss it with me, had no idea, and said, "You need to get out of my house." I let him know, "I don't have a job. I'm due in 3 weeks. Where do you expect us to go?" And he said, "Well, I took out a loan." So I didn't know about it. I've never signed anything.
Okay, let's go.
That, again, not the case. We had discussed it before. We were not together at the time. Yeah, she was living with me. I, at the time, had still originally purchased this house with a friend. So there was a couple roommates there, and it wasn't an environment for, 2 kids. There was, 2 other, mid-20-year-old men living there. So I let her live there as an accommodation until we could find something.
So you were living with him in a house with other adult males?
They lived in the basement, yes.
With other adult males?
Yes.
Did you share a room with him?
Yes.
In that house?
Yes.
Okay, so you're sharing a bedroom?
Correct.
So far, you're losing my sympathy, Mr. Tonda.
Well, it was an unfortunate circumstance. I mean, we had to do what we had to do, and that's why, I didn't kick her out. I brought up a proposition that I felt would be beneficial for both of us to get her into a room before our daughter was born.
Why? Who was going to be there to help her?
Who was going to be there to help her?
That's my
We
question.
had gotten a place, 15, 20 minutes away from my house, so...
That's 15 or 20 minutes. She's expecting a baby. She's living in Minnesota. I assume she has no family in Minnesota.
She did not have any family, per se, but my family had taken her on as like her own.
She had no family in Minnesota. She's due in 3 weeks. Your child.
Yep.
So it would seem to me you'd want to keep her around at least until she's back up on her feet after the baby is born. This doesn't seem like the appropriate time to find her a new space, Mr. Tonda.
Well, I felt it was more appropriate before the baby was born than after.
You're wrong. It was selfish and babyish.
I disagree.
I don't give a rat's tutu whether you agree or disagree, sir. You want me to take a poll as to whether or not most mature adult males would say it was appropriate to find an 8.5-month pregnant woman who's got a 1-year-old a place of her own in a town where she has no family, sir? You want me to take a poll?
No.
You don't want to. You don't want a poll there, sir. Believe me.
I don't think it's necessary.
Believe me, you don't want a poll. It was a selfish thing to do. So you took out a loan. You got her an apartment.
Correct.
Right? Well, you didn't expect her to pay the rent, did you?
Well, not
How was she
right
supposed
away.
to pay the rent? 8.5 months pregnant.
Well, not right away, but that's why we took out the loan when she started working.
Let's see when.
When she started working.
Well, when did you think she was going to start working?
I would assume roughly 6 to 8 weeks after her daughter was born.
Right. And just a second. And what was And what was she supposed to do with a 6-week-old baby and a 1-year-old baby? What was she supposed to do with those?
Well, it's not like she was just on her own. I mean, obviously, I was an active parent involved in paying support, so she had the support that I was paying her.
Just a second. That's not being an active parent.
I don't understand what's not being an active parent.
Giving money is not an active parent.
No, that was to help the situation. It wasn't. I'm not defining being an active parent by taking out a loan.
Well, what did you do when she got this apartment by herself? Did you go over there every day?
I was over there quite a bit, actually.
That's not my question. Did you go over there every day to take care of your son?
Well, I wouldn't say every day.
Well, what did you expect her to do with the baby and a new baby when you weren't there? What did you expect her to do?
Your Honor, it's a circumstance where, unfortunately, we weren't together and it didn't work out. But I felt I did what I could to help her out, and, my family.
So then what are you doing here? My question to you, sir, is what are you doing here? You took out a loan to get her an apartment so she could be on her own after impregnating her twice.
Well, I'm here to, a loan is the key word. She agreed to pay, and she faithfully paid on it for 2 years on the loan. And then once I filed for custody of my children, because she picked up and moved to Texas with 5 days notice.
Well, that was a bad thing for her to do, to pick up and move to Texas, if you were a good and involved father.
Because she has only her best interest in mind, not the interest of the children, hence the reason that I filed for custody.
And you only have the best interests of the children in mind.
Actually, I do, Your Honor.
Then what are you doing here? How much support were you paying 2 years ago?
When we had just our son born, I was giving her about $400 a month.
$400 a month?
A month.
That's incorrect.
Okay. I was giving her $200 every 2 weeks.
And what do you give her now?
$800.
Every 2 weeks?
No, $800 a month is what the court has ordered me to pay.
Well, that's the same thing as you were paying her before, for one child. Now you're giving her the same amount for 2 children.
Right, which is double. Normally it's only a 10% increase from the first one to the second one. So
that doesn't sound like, sir, the best interest of the children percentage. It's usually a 10% increase?
Yeah, 25% of your income for the first one, and then in Minnesota it's 35%.
No,
so
that's not, sir, you don't get confused.
Well, I know it's not 10%.
Those are the minimum federal child support guidelines, which have been adapted in every jurisdiction. That's the minimum. Do you work?
Yes, ma'am, and I'm in school.
Who takes care of the children?
They go to Child Builders Christian School. It's a private preschool.
And who pays for it?
I do.
How much do you pay for daycare?
$650 a month.
Okay, so she pays $650 a month. And how much of the daycare do you pay, Mr. Tanda?
I believe a portion of the total support goes to that. I do nothing specific.
That's not what I asked you.
Well, I don't pay anything directly to the...
Right. So if we take away what you pay, which is $800 a month, from the $650 that she pays just to keep the children so that she can work, we have a grand total of $150 a month. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. We're going to divide that by 2 equals $75 a month for each child. And that we're going to divide by 30 equals $2.50 a day is what you pay for each of your children in child support.
May I speak now, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know her exact financial situation, but obviously I want to be involved to the point where I'm filing for custody of my children. And the fact is that she must not be hurting too bad, because she's obviously able to afford a lawyer to fly up to Minnesota to try to fight from keeping me from having the opportunity to have my kids reside in the state where I live.
Mr. Tanda, I want you to listen very carefully, sir. I have tremendous sympathy for non-custodial parents who don't see their children. And I have usually very little sympathy for custodial parents who pick up and move away and make it difficult for the non-custodial parents to see their children. Usually. But let me explain to you, sir, that in this case, Miss Petrie followed you from Wisconsin to Minnesota, where you live. 2 times, right?
Correct.
And when she came back the second time, she had a baby, and it didn't work out. You say, I fulfilled my obligation because I wanted to be close to my children, paid the rent so it would be comfortable and easy for her, and gave her $200. But out of that $200, I expected her to work with 2 children, and to pay for daycare, and to pay me back my loan. Do you see why sympathy is waning for you, Mr. Tanda?
Your Honor, the state was picking up the majority of the tab of the daycare when they were in Minnesota, so the situation that we had in Minnesota was perfectly fine.
No, it wasn't working fine. You put her out and put her in her own apartment. And what you're supposed to say, Mr. Tanda, is, I'm sorry for bringing you to court. It was a stupid thing for me to do, because I have found a very unsympathetic judge who doesn't find that this was a loan. The court finds that it was a very comfortable way for you to stay in your house with your 2 bachelor boyfriends and get rid of your responsibility that you didn't have to deal with on a regular basis, which clearly, according to your own testimony, you didn't. You weren't at her apartment every day after the baby was born, taking care of your son, taking care of your daughter.
Well, maybe 6 out of 7 days. I don't,
Yeah, baloney. Coming over and spending an hour is not being there to do the job of a parent, sir.
Than an hour.
And I'm not saying that she was smart to have a second child with you.
No.
One mistake I can understand. 2 is dumb.
I agree.
But it takes 2 to tango.
It does.
What I'm telling you is, right now, the mother of your 2 children seems to be taking care of her financial responsibilities relatively comfortably. She's got a job, she pays for daycare, and she's doing that with marginal help from you.
Well, unfortunately, with her picking up, moving 1,300 miles away,
where did you expect her? Listen to me, sir. Where did you expect her to move to? You expected her to move to a jurisdiction that was closer to you, where she had nobody?
No, she picked up and gave me 5 days' notice when I'm supposed to have my kids for a Christmas vacation, and she calls and tells me they're not coming, and she's moving to Texas.
Right.
So
that's where her family is, though. That's where her family is, right?
Her mother, who she said nothing but bad things about the whole time.
Her mother and who else?
Her brother lives a few hours away.
Got a mother and a brother.
Yep.
What do you do for a living?
I work for a cell phone company.
Which cell phone company?
Verizon Wireless.
Good. They have offices in Texas. Why don't you move there?
It's
Listen to me. That's where your family is, sir. Your 2 children are in Texas. Her support system is in Texas.
She had a tremendous support system from my family, too.
Now, her family's not your family.
Right.
You want to be near your children?
Your Honor, can I talk?
Go to Texas.
When our son was being delivered and her mother had called and she was holding our son, this is how much she adores her mother. She said, "Oh, that's the grandma
No, I
of
did
the
not.
phone." And we have it on videotape, Your Honor. So
Mr.
for her to say that that's an excuse to move down there and have her support system,
Mr.
she doesn't even barely get along with her mom.
Mr. Tanda, you get along with your mother?
I do get along with my mom.
Ever not get along with your mother, sir? Did you ever not get along with your mother?
I never badmouth my mom.
Did you ever not get along? That's not what I asked you. Did you ever not get along with your mother?
As much as everybody probably hasn't.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of curse words that go on in a labor and delivery room. A lot. I guarantee you that she called you a couple of names, too. If she didn't, she probably meant to. Let me explain something to you, sir. You don't have a profession where you're licensed to practice only in the state of Minnesota. And if I were you and if I wanted to see my children, I would call up my boss and I would say, please find me a place in Texas so you could be a lot closer to your children if that's in your mind. But based upon what I hear, you wanted her out of the house. You took out a loan. I see no reasonable expectation for the foreseeable future of you being paid back any money from somebody who now has 2 babies, no job, living in a place where she has no family. I don't see any reasonable expectation of you being paid back, sir. And that's part of a contract, if it's a loan. You did the right thing if you weren't getting along and helping her get set up. Don't be a fool now, Mr. Tanda. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Peggy Price is suing her ex-boyfriend, Corey Emerson, for loans to pay rent, fix his bike, and travel to his brother's wedding. Corey says the money she gave him was never a loan.
Ms. Price, Mr. Emerson was your boyfriend for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to him. You want your money back because he broke off the relationship. He says that he did break off the relationship. Any money that you gave him during the relationship were gifts because you cared for him. He needed the money. That's what people do who care for each other. They help each other out. And the only time it became a loan was when he broke up with you. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. Emerson?
30 years old.
Ever been married?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Just once.
When and for how long?
I was married when I was 20 for 9 years.
You have children?
2.
How old are your children?
9 and 10.
Do you see them?
Almost every day.
So you're a good father.
I try to be, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Emerson?
I work for the railroad.
And how long have you worked for the railroad?
6.5 years.
Pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Miss Price? How old are you?
32.
Ever been married?
Yes.
When and for how long?
2000 until 2005.
Have any children?
2.
How old are they?
5 and 13.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm self-employed hairstylist.
Children see their father?
Yes.
Do you pay child support?
He's disabled, so they get Social Security.
And your former wife, sir, what does she do?
She has an in-home daycare.
So it would be a fair statement, Mr. Emerson, to say that both of these families are sort of struggling to make ends meet financially. That be a fair statement?
I wouldn't say that I'm struggling, nor would I say she's struggling at all.
Really?
That's correct.
You think there's plenty of money to go around?
I do.
Then why would you take money from her, Mr. Emerson?
I didn't take any money.
No, listen to me, sir.
Oh.
You did take money from her. whether it's a gift or a loan, you did take money from her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, if these two families are in pretty much similar circumstance, why would you take money from her?
Things come up, things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not? Is my question. Why not? Would not a person with a certain moral compass say, listen, you're a working gal, you got 2 little children, I'm a working guy, I got 2 little children.
Somebody offers me money, who am I to say no?
A creep. That's who you are. Because whether I determine this was a gift or a loan, you're a creep. You're not talking about somebody who's got plenty of extra cash and says to somebody that she cares about, listen, I got a lot of extra cash. You need something, I'll help you with it. You were pretty well aware of the fact, if you were dating for a while, that she's a hard-working gal who comes home from work, takes care of her kids, does the cooking, whatever, does everything that has to be done. And you, on the other hand, who see your children every day, which is really very nice, probably have much less responsibility with regard to doing their laundry, with their appointments, with regard to doing the general stuff, what I call the grunt work, because your children do live with their mother, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we're going to decide whether you are a creep that took the money because it was a loan or a creep that took the money because it was a gift. Either way, I don't approve of your behavior. When did you start dating Mr. Emerson?
The second week of May 2006.
Tell me when and under what circumstances he asked you for the first amount of money.
He wrecked his bike. The fork broke. He said that he didn't have the money to pay for it. Sent me a text message. Can you do me a huge favor? That's how all of them start.
Could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What did it say?
I need money to pay for the fork for my bike.
Okay.
So I said under the condition that he make payments, whatever. Eventually it's got to be paid back.
When did you tell him eventually he has to be paid back?
I didn't set a date. I just said, whenever you can pay me back.
Okay, so and how much was that for?
This check was for $409.81.
Okay, next.
Then he was having problems. He didn't have enough money to pay his rent. So
how did you find out about that?
He sent me a text message again asking him to help him pay his rent. And I said, how much is it? And he said it was $640 with late fees. I said, how much do you have? He said he had like $400 in the bank. And I said, I can help you out, but once again, it's, we're adding this on. So I wrote a check for $640, but he gave me $403 of it.
Go ahead.
Then he had to get home. His brother's wedding was like a month before.
He had to go to a wedding?
To Montana. And, we talked about it, and I'm like, I can help you out. If you want me to, whatever, I can help you out.
I don't want whatever. You're in court now, Miss Price. You have to be specific about what you said to him and what he said to you, and I want you to trust me on this. I know what you're making up, and I know what you're not making up.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
So a month later, he had a wedding?
Yes.
Where were you when he asked you for the money for the trip?
We were at a bar.
And what did he say to you?
He just said that he didn't have the money to get there. Could I help him out?
And what did you say?
I said, I can do what I can, but...
And how much was that?
The plane ticket was $346.60, and the Greyhound bus that I put him on, because I waited till the last minute to get the plane ticket, and it was going to be $900. So I wasn't going to do that. I didn't have the money to do that, and he knew that. So I sent him on a Greyhound, and that was $159.
Okay, and that's it?
Yes.
And what date was that?
He left on the 1st of August and returned on the 8th.
And when did you and Mr. Emerson stop seeing each other?
He came in on the 11th, which was a Friday, at about noon.
To your salon?
My work, yes. I proceeded to give him and his son a haircut at no charge, thinking everything was okay, because we'd had no problems up till then. And I got a text message 6 hours later from him saying that we needed a break, and, this wasn't working, it was moving too fast. And so we went back and forth through text messages, and I said, I have the right to know why you're feeling this way. I've done everything in the relationship I've given.
And he said?
He said, since you're giving me an ultimatum, it's over.
Okay, now, Mr. Emerson, it's your turn. June. June!
June. The mountain bike. I wrecked my mountain bike. It was going to cost about $400 to fix it. I had talked with Peggy about the price, and she offered to pay for it.
What would you talk to her about the price for?
Well, we're in a relationship. We talked about, I talked about wrecking my mountain bike and, what it was going to be to fix it. And
why would you tell her that? Why don't you tell your ex-wife that?
Actually, I did tell my ex-wife that.
Did she give you any money?
No.
You have living parents?
Yes.
Yeah, well, your mother loves you for a longer time than the plaintiff did. Why don't you call your mother and say, I broke my spoke?
I didn't need to. The plaintiff had already offered to pay for it.
She wouldn't need to have offered to have paid for it, Mr. Emerson, if you didn't have a problem. And you wouldn't have had a problem if you called your mother or your father or your brother or your sister and said, could you loan me some money? Then you wouldn't have even had to mention it to her.
It wasn't offered to pay for it, ma'am.
Well, what about Mr. Emerson? You need not do that. I only know you 8 weeks. And I wouldn't think of taking any money from you because I have a mother who gave birth to me. I have an ex-wife who I support along with my 2 children. I have a brother, sister, father, you know, who I've known a long time. I wouldn't think of taking money from you. How about that?
Didn't even cross my mind.
Nah, that's because you're a creep. Now, Mr. Emerson, you want to tell me what cathartic event happened between the 1st of August when you went home to your brother's wedding and the 11th of August when you had your hair cut and your son's hair cut for free at Miss Price's salon that caused you to send her a text message that said, we need a break?
It had been leading up to that.
I want you to tell me the cathartic event between August 1st when you left on a plane ticket that she purchased for you and when you came back on a Greyhound bus ticket that she had purchased for you that caused you to say, we need a break.
Okay, it was...
Follow my train of thought, sir.
It was big deal was the plane ticket. She tells you she's going to do something and she'll play along with the story. I'm going to do this. I've got it taken care of. Don't worry. I'll do it.
Just a second. Just a second. Let's get rid of the gobbledygook, sir. What you're complaining about is
the fact that she does not follow through.
Listen. What you're saying is she sent you home by bus instead of plane. Is that what you're telling me?
That was one of the problems, yes.
Oh, very good. Major creep. Major creep. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,154. That's all.
Ryan Lapp claims his ex-girlfriend's friend, Mark Childress, entered his home without permission and assaulted him. Mark does not dispute the charge.
Mr. Lapp, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you in your home.
Yes, it's true.
Mr. Childress acknowledges that he came to your home. He said you became confrontational.
Not true at all. Sorry.
Not so sure about it. In any event, what I gather from his answer is, if you got a whooping, you deserved it. That'd be a fair statement, sir.
Well, I'm
Let's
disappointed.
see. Mr. Lapp, according to what I read, you and some friends were hanging out in your house. And I don't know what you were doing and hanging around in your house, whether you were drinking or smoking or doing some drugs or whatever you were doing, but you decided to make some prank calls.
Yes.
On what evening was this, sir?
I believe it was on the evening of the 14th of July.
And you made a prank call, one of those prank calls, to the defendant's home. I assume that it's this young lady who was living in your home with you at the time.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she's a married lady?
2 days.
To this gentleman here,
Yes, Your Honor.
who was then stationed in Iraq. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
Ronald McCart.
What is your rank, sir?
I'm a specialist.
When did you get back from Iraq?
December 12th, ma'am.
Okay. So you called the defendant's home and you got this young lady on the phone. And what is your name?
Allison.
Now, did you know Allison?
Yeah, I did.
What had you been drinking, smoking, or snorting that night, Mr. Lapp?
No snorting or smoking anything other than cigarettes, but we were drinking gin that night.
And who was there?
It was me, my witness Andrew, and my neighbor from across the way, and my girlfriend.
What did you say to Allison when you prank called her, sir? Look at me.
There was a lot of prank phone calls being made, but I mean, I was on one of them. And what I said...
I want to know what was said when you called Allison.
I can't remember exactly, but I did say something to
you.
You
don't remember. So let's hear Allison. Allison, you remember July 14th?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Who called you?
Mr. Lapp called my cell phone.
How did he have your cell phone number? Do you know?
Ryan is a previous boyfriend of mine.
Who's Ryan?
Mr. Lapp.
When did you stop seeing him?
In March.
March of 06? Mm-hmm. And when did you meet your husband? Okay, so he had your cell phone number. What did he say to you, Allison, when he called?
He said that I hope that they shoot your desert rat boyfriend in the head and that they don't find his body so he can't be buried here.
Not nice?
No, definitely not. Shouldn't have ever even been said, and that was totally unright on my part.
So, Allison, what did you do when you got that message?
I was very upset. A lot of crying.
Did you tell Mr. Childress?
Yes.
Okay. So what'd you do?
I listened to the tape.
Oh, she had it on tape.
There was 16, 17 vulgar, sexually abusive, and just derogatory phone calls over a period of an hour and a half made to the house. Very explicit, very sexually demeaning.
Why, Mr. Lapp?
Like I said, I couldn't tell you why. I wasn't even on any of those phone calls except for that one phone call where I did say what I said about her now husband.
But you gave the phone to your friends.
No,
or
I
you
didn't.
called the number.
No. Other people have her number other than me. That did not come from me. They all know her.
Did you make the phone calls?
Me?
You?
Yeah.
What am I looking at? Who else is there?
Yeah. I made about 2 or 3 myself. But everybody did have her phone number that was there, and they were all using their separate phones.
I didn't ask about anybody else. I asked about you.
Yeah, I made 2 or 3 phone calls.
Stand up. Why?
We just had we just had something against her. I don't know what it was, but we just didn't really like her.
Who cares? I don't like you. I wouldn't call you and say nasty things on your cell phone.
That's fair. We just, we were drinking, and it just...
Because you were acting like idiots, and that's what happens to idiots when they drink.
Yeah.
When they drink, they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they become confrontational,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Now I'll hear from you.
After listening to this hour and a half of phone calls, I was so disappointed in Ryan. We'd invited him to our house. We've fed him. We've taken care of him. And it just really disappointed me. I couldn't imagine why he would sink so low. And then to talk about a gentleman who's not here, who's serving our country, that gives him the right to say the things that he did.
Yeah, sitting on his porch and drinking gin.
Exactly.
Right.
I thought this couldn't be the Ryan I knew.
So you went over there to see if somebody else creeped into his skin.
Well, my son-in-law lives in the same apartment that Ryan does. And we had an open door policy. They come to our house, we go to their house.
So you went over there.
I went over there and
Look at me, Mr. Childress.
wanted to see what was going on.
So what happened when you got there?
I asked Ryan, I go, do you know who I am? Because he was in bed. I saw that his girlfriend had just left.
So you went into his bedroom.
Yes, which is right next to my son-in-law's bedroom.
How did you get into the house?
The house is open.
Okay.
It's
All right.
like
Do you remember,
Yes.
Mr. Lapp, what happened? Because you were pretty drunk that night, according
Yeah,
to
I
you.
wasn't that drunk in the morning, though.
Oh, so this
Maybe
was
a little
the morning.
hungover. This was a little hungover. Yes, when he assaulted me, it was in the morning.
Go ahead.
I woke up, actually, my girlfriend was leaving the house. Once she had left the house,
Was she there when you were making these calls,
Yes,
these
she
crank
was.
calls?
Yes, she was. She was there for part of the night, then she left and didn't come back.
Was she
later that
making
night.
any of the crank calls?
She was on some of those prank phone calls. What had happened was she had left that morning. He came in after that, and I thought somebody was coming to my bedroom. I thought it was my girlfriend returning because she forgot something.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. He locked the door behind him as he came in. Said, do you know who I am? I said, yeah. He told me to stand up. I stood up. He socked me once in the mouth. I fell to the bed. He continued to hold me down and punch me. I couldn't even move. I mean, he punched me 20, 25 times in the side of my face, in my stomach, all through my neck, my jaw. I have the hospital reports of the cervical strain and the contusions to the head and neck for about 3 weeks, which caused me
Not going to make any more prank phone calls, are you?
No. Prank phone calls are bad. Like I said, it was a stupid mistake, but I don't believe it justifies someone putting their hands on somebody.
Okay. Now your version, sir.
I asked Ryan if he knew who I was, because I know he had been drinking the night before, and I asked him what was going on. And immediately he said, I didn't say anything, and flailed his arms up. I took a defensive posture and acted accordingly. I thought he was going to attack me, the way he had been talking on the phone.
I don't buy that, Mr. Children. I don't buy that. You went into his bedroom.
That's correct.
After that, he also proceeded to go out and try to assault him.
I
It's not
assume
like
the
he just
police-
came
I
in there
assume
just
you
to
called
beat
the
me up.
police?
Yes, I called the police right after it happened.
And I
He
assume
also
the police,
threatened me not to do.
quiet.
Okay.
And I assume the police came, and I assume you played them the recordings,
Yes, Your Honor.
and they did nothing.
They failed to press charges against either one of us.
Correct. Do you work, Mr. Lapp?
Yes, I do.
Who do you work for?
Fry's Electronics in Sacramento.
How long have you worked for them?
I've worked there about 4 months now.
You have medical insurance?
No, I do not.
Have you paid any of these bills?
No, I have not. I don't have the funds to do so.
I have $2,099 in medical bills.
Yes.
Do you have any photographs of your injuries?
I did on a cell phone that's broken now, so there's no way to get those.
How many times did you hit him, Mr. Childress?
Probably between 10 and 12 times.
More than that. Way more.
I was in the living room when this all happened, because you have, where I slept in the apartment, you have to walk past me to get to his room. And when he walked in there, he locked the door, and I heard a lot of, beating and screaming, him, telling him to get off, but there was a lot more hits. You could hear Mark hitting Ryan. It was a lot more than 10 or 12.
Mr. Lapp, on a sympathy scale of 1 to 10, you maybe you're a -1. You understand that? To me, you too, because the pain that you can cause somebody as a result of making crank phone calls to them, and prank phone calls, especially the kind that you did with regard to this young man who was very far away from home and whose life was on the line, so that you two idiots could sit on your porch and drink gin. The things that you said about him are outrageous. And while I understand Mr. Childress's anger at you, the law doesn't give him the right to go over to your home and to assault you. There's no question that the police were so outraged at the phone calls that they winked at the assault. But quite frankly, I can't. You are responsible for his medical bills. Now, then, the only thing that I have to make a judgment about is whether you are also responsible for his pain and suffering, because his medical bills are $2,000. He wants $5,000. That he's not getting. Because there is emotional injury and there is physical injury. And you suffered physical injury as a result of this assault. Did this young lady sue you for emotional injury?
She did not.
You think that one can be as dramatic as the other?
Yeah.
Well, so the swollen face, the black and blue, whatever, suck it up. Mr. Childress is going to pay your medical bills. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Maria Prieto claims her son's former friend, James Alfter, started a fire in her home while trying to grow marijuana.
Ms. Prieto, you rented a house to the defendant.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that he is responsible for a fire in your home that resulted in damage. Some of the damage was covered by insurance, but a great deal of it was not covered by insurance, and you want him to pay the balance.
That's correct.
Your out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Alfter?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You look petrified. Are you scared of me?
No.
You should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Alfter says that your homeowner's insurance should have covered whatever losses there were. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and it was just an accident. That's your defense.
Yes.
Your Honor, I disagree.
Just. How old are you, sir?
20.
When did you move out of your home?
I've been on my own since I was about 18.
And how have you been taking care of yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Family business.
What kind of business?
Construction. Do concrete work.
Whose business is it?
It's my grandfather's.
Who else works there?
The crew, my dad, my brothers.
So it's a big business?
Yeah.
It's a lucrative business?
Yeah.
How much? Yes, try yes.
Yes.
How much do you get paid?
$30 an hour.
And you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
40-hour weeks.
So you've got money in the bank?
I'm all right.
What?
Said I'm all right. Yes.
You have a car?
Yes.
Shape? Do you work out?
Yes.
You work out at home or in a gym?
The gym.
You have a gym membership?
Yes.
I ask you all these questions, sir, because I'm trying to find out a little bit about you. Because this complaint says, Mr. Alfter, that the fire that started in Miss Prieto's house, on what date?
September the 12th.
On what date did he move into the house?
He moved in July 1st.
Was started because in your bedroom, right?
In master bedroom, correct.
People usually sleep in the master bedroom, right?
Yes.
How many bedrooms were there in the house?
5.
How many people were living in the house?
Just 2.
You and who else?
Me and my roommate.
Male or female?
No.
So that those were 2 bedrooms. You don't spend the night with your roommate, right? You each have your own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I guess you didn't want you or your roommate to get the master bedrooms, because then it would be unequal, so that you each stayed in other bedrooms.
Yes.
And you were using your master bedroom to grow marijuana. You actually hadn't brought in the plants yet, according to the complaint and the answer, but it was all set up with a whole bunch of lights, right?
Yes, there's equipment.
I mean, you weren't planning on shooting a film in there, were you?
No.
You were going to grow marijuana.
Yes.
What were you going to do with it when you grew it?
Well, I have anxiety, and I was going to try to get my card, cannabis card.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Your parents are alive?
Yes.
Did they know you were coming here today?
Yes.
Did they know that 10 million people were going to be watching you today?
Yes.
Did they offer you any warning, sir?
Yes.
And I know that it's not relevant to the case, but I, because I am a mother, would like to know what your parents said to you.
They told me I better learn my lesson.
Both of them?
Yes.
Sounds like my kind of people. Who do you expect to pay for these damages that weren't covered by Miss Prieto's insurance as a result of your lunacy in trying to start a marijuana farm in her house?
Myself.
Right. So why didn't you just pay her, sir? Why did you force her to come here? You know, I mean, I know that she looks lovely and she appears to be a very nice lady, but why didn't you just say, I'm really sorry, I acted like an idiot, I'm 20 years old, I'm not fully grown up yet. You know, just help me out here. It'll never happen again. I'm going to cut my hair so I can see. You know, all of those things.
The sum, that amount that she wanted was pretty high. I thought the insurance would have covered it, but I was going to pay the deductible.
Yeah, but the insurance company didn't, for instance, pay for all the landscaping around the house that was singed.
But when I moved in the house, the land or the landscaping wasn't too caught up.
May not have been too caught up. What about the fact that you didn't have the use of her house for a while?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, I know, that's my fault.
So who should pay for that?
Myself.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see the bills, please?
Sure. And I have pictures also.
Should have listened to your parents, Mr. After. Father's a pretty tough guy?
Yeah.
Are you using your real name today, sir?
Yes.
Is your father's last name the same as yours?
Yes.
Look what you did to her house. Bird, look what he did to her house. You planned on smoking an awful lot of weed, sir, for your anxiety. Why don't you go to a therapist?
I don't know.
Well, I would try a therapist before I would start farming again. Who helped you with all this, sir?
I did it myself.
What about your roommate?
No, well, he helped a little bit.
Was he going to be your partner?
No.
What does he do for a living?
He works.
For whom?
He does construction, too.
For your father?
No. No.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Please.
Okay, as far as all that equipment he purchased, and it was worth over supposedly $6,000, and he didn't have money to pay the rent. So he had money to go out there and buy all that, plus, you know, start his little lab thing. But on the other hand, he's making $30 an hour, and he could have just stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to pay you. Even payments. I said, can you make payments? And he's like, yeah, I will. Never followed through.
He's very anxious because he's not smart. And unless he gets smarter, he's going to remain anxious. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Say sorry.
Sorry.
Not to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
Linda Banks is suing her neighbor, Herbert Robertson, for accidentally shooting out her windows with a BB gun. Herbert claims he's a better shot than that.
Miss Banks, Mr. Robertson is your neighbor, and it is your claim that he shot out some windows in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so...
Okay. Miss Banks, have you had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. It's distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
Don't you know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, that's no problem. This guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, might I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
Went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able... Is this your wife?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the way we play here in my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it, I just wanted you to be aware of it? Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
Looks like rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
No,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back. I've
have a
had
bad
5 back
back.
surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
It's kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitated. It seems to be if you could do this, you could sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't want you to, no, listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. He wants you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you.
For
that she has
you
my
done made your
sincere
mind up.
condolences.
And like I said, I thought you were innocent until you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all.
Don't matter.
Betty Shapiro is suing her son, 22-year-old Jason Hartwick, for a loan to buy an '88 Mustang and for a loan to pay restitution.
Mrs. Shapiro.
Yes.
This is your son.
Yes, it is.
Was he a cute baby?
Very cute.
Did you ever think when he was born, when you were taking care of his colds and when you were cleaning up after him, that you'd ever be suing him?
Never.
You must be pretty frustrated.
Very frustrated. He owes me money. I mean, it's not even the money. It's the issue of responsibility. He needs to pay his debts. and that's why we're here.
How many children do you have?
4.
Where does he fit in?
The second son. I have an older son, him, a younger son, and a daughter.
What about your other children? They okay?
They're fine.
So this is what the case is about. You loaned him money for a car.
Correct.
Tell me your first name.
Jason.
Jason, when did your mother loan you money for a car?
I'd say last year around
Mr.
February.
Shapiro, when did you loan him money for the car?
May 13th of 05.
What kind of a car did you buy, Jason?
I bought a 67 Mustang.
67 Mustang?
Or, no, it was an 88, sorry. I was thinking of a different car. 88
You're only
5.0. sorry.
century apart. What?
Yeah, it's an 88 5.0 Mustang.
And according to your complaint, Mr. Shapiro, he paid on the car.
Yes, he made 4 payments.
And what was the total amount he borrowed?
$1,500.
How much did he pay you?
On 6/14 of 05, he paid $120. On 7/18, he paid $95. On 8/20, he paid $80. On 9/21, he paid $75.
And then he stopped paying. And Jason says he stopped paying because the car got towed.
Yep.
And he couldn't get the car out of impound because he didn't have any money.
Correct.
So he called you and he said, "Can you give me some money so I can get my car out of tow?" You said, "I don't have any money to give you to get your car out of tow." So the car didn't get out of tow. He lost the car, and he says it's your fault that he lost the car so he doesn't have to pay any more money.
Right.
Right? That's your defense.
Yep.
Do you want to say that to me? Because I've said it now, but I would like to hear it coming from your mouth, Jason.
Well, I borrowed the money, I got the car, then where I was staying, I was forced to move, and I couldn't move the car at the time because it was broken down at the time.
So where did you leave it?
In front of my friend's house.
How long did you leave it there?
Like maybe a week before it got towed. Because I had to get it fixed, and I was fixing it, and then I'm trying to
Well,
work.
you could have pushed it into somebody's driveway or something.
I didn't
right?
have no driveway to put it in.
Did you call your mom and say to her, "Listen, can I leave the car in your driveway?"
Well, I didn't think to ask her that, and
You didn't
then I would have
think?
had to have it towed over there or something. I didn't have the money for that either.
So you think it's her fault that she didn't lend you more money?
Yeah, so I can get the car. If I don't have a car, why should I give her the money for it?
Let me ask you this question, Jason. How old are you?
22.
Did you go to high school?
Yeah.
Did you finish?
No.
That was a big mistake.
Yeah, I know.
Now, you look like a pretty stout kind of guy. Do you ever eat at a restaurant?
Yeah.
Go in, you order dinner, finish the dinner, they bring you the bill.
Yeah.
You look at the bill and you say, "Why do I have to pay this? There's nothing on my plate anymore. It's all gone." What do you mean? I want you to make believe that your mother is a bank. And instead of borrowing this money from your mother, you borrowed it from a bank. Same scenario. You're doing road work on the car in the public street where you're not allowed to do it. You leave the car on the street. Somebody gives you a free pass for a while, but after a week, they tow your car. You don't have money to get out. You call the bank. Say, "Listen, I owe you money on a car loan, but unless you loan me more money so I can get my car out of tow, I'm not going to pay you any more money." Hello? Is this a crank call? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Does that sound foolish to you, Jason?
Yeah, it does.
So let's not sound foolish. I mean, the first foolish thing that you did was not graduate from high school, because then you would have had money maybe to fix your car. Now let's get to the other problem that you had. I'll hear you again, Mrs. Shapiro.
He was accused of stealing at work.
Stealing cash?
Stealing cash.
What kind of place were you working at the time, Jason?
It was like a diner, maybe.
It was a sandwich shop.
And what were you doing?
I was cooking.
And you were accused of stealing?
Yeah.
Out of the cash register?
I don't know. They never told me where it was from. They just told me money was missing, and they feel that I was doing it.
Okay. So he called you?
Correct.
What did he say when he called you?
That he was accused of stealing and that they were going to press charges and put him in jail unless he came up with the money.
And you said what?
I said, "Let's go meet with her."
With whom?
With his boss.
Fine. So you sat down with his boss?
With his boss in her office.
Go ahead.
And at that time, she basically told me exactly what had happened,
Well,
the
tell me-
amount of money that was taken.
When she sat at the meeting with you and your son and accused him of taking this money, what did he say?
He had admitted to doing it. And she was willing
How much
to
money are we
not-
talking about?
$2,715.
I didn't say nothing like that.
What did you say?
I told them that I wasn't admitting nothing.
No, look, don't look down. Look over here.
I wasn't going to pay them. I was going to go try and get an attorney, try and fight them and everything. I wasn't
taking the rap. I didn't see no proof I did it. I didn't see nothing.
Now, just a second. We're not talking about proof. Listen to me very carefully, Jason. You got...
Yep.
Your mother says that at the meeting with your boss, you admitted taking the money. But if you say to me, I told them that I wasn't taking the rap for this because I didn't do it, then you're telling me, in effect, that your mother is a liar. Is that what you want to tell me?
That's what I said.
What did you say?
I said that...
No, don't look down. Look over here.
I said I didn't say that.
You said you didn't say what?
I didn't say that I took the money.
What did you say?
I said that I was going to try and fight it.
With what?
However I could.
Is that what you told your mother?
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you told your mother.
I didn't tell my mom really anything. I just said I didn't want to pay it. I didn't want to give him this money. I didn't want her to give him the money. I didn't want nothing. I just wanted to go try and get a lawyer or whatever and try and fight this out.
So then why in the world, Jason, did you call your mother and arrange to go to a meeting with her? And why did you go to the meeting with her? You've been told that you were accused of stealing. So there was no possible reason for you to call your mother or go to the meeting if what your intention was to say, fine, arrest me, I'm going to get a lawyer, and I'm going to fight these charges. You want to explain that to me?
Just figured she knew more than I did about the type of stuff, and she might be able to give me some kind of advice. What they were telling me.
Just a second. I can understand, Jason, you calling your mother at home and saying, Mom, I want to come over and talk to you. This is what they're accusing me of, and I didn't do it. I want to get a lawyer, and I want to fight it. What I don't understand, Jason, is why you called your mother and then went to a meeting with your boss, with your mother.
I just had her come with me.
Why? Why would you go at all? You knew what you were being accused of.
I don't know. I just went.
3 out of 4 ain't bad. Did you say to your mother when she wrote out the check or paid them the money?
Nothing. I didn't actually see that happen.
Well, you knew she did it, right?
Yeah, I didn't say nothing to her, though.
You didn't say anything?
No, I was...
Like, thanks, Mom, for bailing me out, or I don't want you to pay this money because I didn't do this. I'd rather we spend the money on a lawyer so I can have a clear name. Didn't say that?
No.
Did you make an arrangement with your mother to pay her back out of your paychecks?
No, I never set that up.
Who did?
I guess the lady that I was working for did.
And how many days did you work after your mother gave them the money?
I don't know, maybe 3 or 4.
Why did you leave?
Because they were harassing me.
Who was harassing you?
The bosses. They were talking about me in front of me, and I wasn't feeling comfortable about that, so I quit.
And where did you go to work?
I went to another job. I got a job at Dairy Queen.
For how long?
About a month.
And where'd you go after that?
That was just a couple weeks ago. I haven't had a job yet since then.
The maximum limit in the small claims court in your jurisdiction is $3,000. Is that why you sued for $3,000? That's what you owe your mother. Who are you living with?
My friend.
What does your friend do for a living?
He works in, like, he makes the glass for the slot machines in the casinos.
Do you know that you sound to me like you're lost? Seriously. You sound to me as if you're lost, and unless you get control of your life, sir, it's going to be over before you know it. You can't be an irresponsible baby forever. Comes a time when you have to grow up and take responsibility for what you do and not make everybody else's life miserable. Your mother doesn't owe you anything anymore. Now you're on your own. Leave her alone. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
23-year-old Patricia Serrano is suing her former friend, Elda Lugo, for a $3,500 loan plus interest. Elda claims Patricia gave her the money from a large settlement.
Ms. Serrano, according to your complaint, the defendant is a friend of yours from high school. She ran into some financial difficulty some time ago and approached you about lending her some money.
Yes, Judge.
You were a good friend. You lent her the money, $3,500. She didn't pay you back. You want your money back.
Yes.
Ms. Lugo says that you were a good friend to her. You gave her $3,500. You would come into some money. There was never any discussion of payback. As far as she was concerned, it was a gift.
That's true. Differ.
When did you graduate from high school, Miss Lugo?
In June of 2001.
And between June of 2001 and the date of this loan or gift, which was on what date?
Last year, around August or July.
How often did you see each other?
After high school, we didn't see each other because we stopped being friends. And after she had a really bad car accident, her mom came and I started being her friend again. That's when we started.
What year?
I honestly do not recall what year she had a car accident.
What year?
It was in 2002, Your Honor.
Now, Tell me about the day you approached Miss Serrano with your money troubles.
I did not approach her. I was just telling her my problems that I had with my family.
Shh, I don't. Listen, if you interrupt again, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just told her I was having really hard times with my parents. I was having a lot of financial problems.
What kind of financial problems were you having, Miss Lugo?
My mom stopped making the payments, so they took my car from me.
How old are you?
23.
Why was your mother making your car payments for you?
Because we're both on the loan, and I was giving her the money, and she was making the payments out of her account.
Who were you working for at the time?
Bay Cities National Bank.
So why weren't you paying the money directly?
Because that was just an arrangement that I had with my mom.
Your money?
I'm not saying she stole the money. I'm just saying that she wasn't making the payments, and they took the car from me.
So you're saying that if you gave your mother the money and your mother wasn't making the car payments,
she was using it for something else.
That she stole your money?
I guess.
And you told Ms. Serrano that your mother stole your money and they repossessed your car?
I told Patricia the problems that I was having with my parents and why they took my car from me.
Miss Lugo, I don't hear that that's a problem that you're having with your parents. If I believe what you're telling me, which I don't, you're telling me that your mother stole the money that you were giving her for your car loan and using it for her own purposes, and therefore they repossessed your car and you wanted to get it back.
Right.
Now, is that what you want me to believe?
That's the truth. That's exactly how everything's
When did you
always
move
been.
out of your mother's house?
Early September.
So you stayed in your mother's house another year after she stole your money?
Actually,
see where I'm going? So you had more financial difficulties than just this alleged theft by your mother of your money.
I couldn't just leave my house and just leave everything, like all my parents and my sisters behind.
Well, if I were living with somebody that stole my money and as a result of that my car was repossessed, I certainly wouldn't live there.
In June, I actually drove to Vegas, and I was going to move over there with my cousin.
That's June 2006. We're still talking about 10 months that you were living with your mother, the thief, if I believe you, which
right,
I don't.
I really didn't have a choice. I mean,
Okay, you're 23 years old. You always have a choice. Okay, now I'm going to get to you, Miss Serrano. Now that I'm getting the personalities in order.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when she approached you in August of 2005 about this money.
Well, she told me the story that her car had gotten repossessed.
Did she tell you how it got repossessed?
Well, she didn't give me a straight answer. I never really did get straight answers from her.
That's a lie.
Don't interrupt. Go ahead.
You know, she came to me, she said, Patty, I haven't been able to make the payments. My mom and my dad aren't helping me out. I just don't have anywhere else to go to for money.
That's not true.
And I said, well, if you need help, feel free to come to me. She said, well, thank you so much. And a couple of days later, she came to me. She said, Patty, I need to take you up on your offer. Can you lend me $3,500? And I said, sure thing, I'll write you a check. And I'm not too sure if it was a day or two later that she said, it's too much trouble to go about, you know, with the check. I can't cash it. She even told me that her mom had found the check and was questioning her about the check.
That's not true.
Why, you know, why I was giving her a check for $3,500. And she said, well, I'll give you back the check, and can you please give me $3,500 in cash? I said, wow, you know, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can work out. And I went to the bank, withdrew $3,500 cash.
Let me see from your bank.
Yeah, it's right here. It's highlighted in yellow.
Where did you get all this money from?
I was involved in a very serious car accident in 2002, and I got a small settlement out of it.
A large settlement.
Oh, that's interesting, Miss Lugo. Did you say a large settlement? How large?
I don't know.
When you said it was a large settlement, you must know something about the settlement.
That's all she would always say. She got a large settlement. Never wanted to ask
I never
how much.
told you anything.
Shh. When did she tell you about this large settlement?
After she was recovering from her injuries.
When did you get the settlement?
Sometime in 2004.
You still have any of the money left?
Yes, I do. Some in investments.
Good. So you gave her $3,500 in cash.
Yes.
And what was the arrangement about paying you back?
She said, okay, Patty, you know I wouldn't have done this if I really didn't need it. Believe me, I'm going to have this money to you tops the end of the year when I get my bonus from the bank.
That's not true.
So I said, okay, you know what?
What part of keep quiet don't you understand?
I didn't see the money. She said, well, you know, I just need a couple of more months, whatever. And I said, okay, you know, just don't forget about it. You know, I'm being your friend here.
When for the first time, Miss Lugo, did the plaintiff ask for this money back?
Early September.
That's a lie.
So what part don't you understand?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Tell me about the conversation when she asked you for the money back.
She started calling me at work and she started emailing me at work.
What would she say when she called?
She was just calling me, telling me that she needed to meet me somewhere.
When did she, for the first time, ask you for the money back? Answer my question.
I believe her first email was September 7th.
That's not true.
Shh. Next time you're gone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I assume you want me to consider giving you your money back.
Yes, please.
Then don't do it again. September 6th, and what did she say in the email? Do you have a copy of that email?
No, I don't. Your
Do you
Honor.
have a copy of the email?
Yes.
I want to see the email from September 6th.
She emailed me a promissory note that she wanted me to sign, that she saying that I owed her the money, and because.
Shh. Well, you emailed her and you said to her that you planned on giving her the money.
Yeah, she was calling me at work nonstop and she was just harassing me.
No, this has nothing to do with a response to harassment.
That's only the email that she gave you, but she didn't tell you about the phone calls that she was making to work.
I just want to see the emails. This is Wednesday, September 6th, and it's a lovely email. Absolutely lovely. You're happy for her. You're happy that she's happy. Hey, I'm not sure what's gone wrong between us again, but I really appreciate everything you have done for me and the times you've been there for me. I guess we are once again going our own separate roads. If it's the money thing, it's stopping you, don't worry. I will give it to you. Do me a favor. Please do not email me at the bank. I get in trouble for receiving personal emails.
My manager talked to me and she was telling me that I was receiving too many personal emails. She emailed me.
Listen to me. She wants her money back.
Yeah, after she was trying to get with my boyfriend, she was trying to hook up with my boyfriend, and I confronted her about it. Until then is when she came back and wanted me to sign a promissory note and said that the gift that she gave me for $3,500 was then the loan.
I don't see why somebody who doesn't look like they're rolling in dough would give you $3,500 and not expect to be repaid at some point. Not necessarily in a week, not necessarily in a month or 6 months or even a year. But someday, within a reasonable period of time, when you got your act together, if you ever get your act together, she expected her money back. And to stand there at this point and say, well, she tried to get over on my boyfriend, and that wasn't right, and therefore I'm not paying her a dime, that's the wrong thing to do. It's not the moral thing to do. You want to end a relationship with her? Terrific. Do it. You're not friends anymore? You don't want to be friends anymore? Fine. But she was there for you when you needed her. And you're supposed to do the moral right thing and pay her her money. Just for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Christina Smith claims ex-boyfriend Gerald Ware Jr. owes for his share of a cruise vacation, utility bills, and a loan to retain an attorney.
Ms. Smith, you and the defendant dated for a period of time and signed a 6-month lease together in August of 2006?
That is correct.
How long had you been dating before you decided to move in with him?
I met him in March, so I was dating under 6 months.
I ask that not because it's particularly relevant, but I'm conducting my own sociological study. I want to see how quickly it is that people make this
mistake.
Right.
Yes.
In any event, your lawsuit says that you moved in August.
Yes, August 5th.
And you moved out in?
September 25th.
Right, so the living together at least saved you a bad marriage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good. It is your claim that Mr. Ware is responsible for half of a cruise that you booked with his consent and his agreement to pay for half of the trip. It was a non-refundable amount of money. It was $2,000, $1,000 for you, $1,000 for him, which, of course, he didn't go on.
Correct.
Because the cruise was scheduled for?
October 7th, excuse me.
Did you take anyone else with you?
No.
So you had the cabin all by yourself?
I sure did.
So let's deal with that first. You moved in August. Things started to go downhill right away. I don't have to know the why. It was not good. You were both not unhappy with the separation. Is that right?
Yes.
You moved out, but you continued to pay the rent. Your half of the rent.
I did.
Does she still continue to pay her half of the rent?
Up until December.
I think she's a princess. And you continued to live there?
Yes, I did.
All by yourself?
And my kids, when I had them for visitation, yes, I did.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So you had a great place to live. Are you still living there?
Until January 6th.
And then what happens?
I received a 30-day notice.
Why?
Because she didn't pay her, as it states in this letter, she didn't pay for December's rent.
Why didn't you pay?
I paid my half.
Why didn't you pay the whole thing?
Because I have a written agreement from her that says that she would pay the half as long
I mean,
as I
I'm
didn't
telling
have
you,
a room.
if she's paid September, October, and November, and she hasn't lived there, and you've lived there with your kids, so how old are you?
Me, 37.
Why don't you take care of your own responsibilities? Where are you going after January? They gave you a 30-day notice. Where do you intend to go?
Oh, I'll find a place. No, none in mind right now.
What do you mean you have none in mind?
Well, I'm looking.
How much rent do you pay?
$675.
Is that the entire rent?
No.
Or just your half?
That my half.
Okay. When you moved in to that apartment, where had you been living just prior to that?
With my boss, as well as Christina.
With your boss?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a cabinet installer.
And you lived in your boss's house?
Yes, I did. As well as he's a friend as well.
Before you lived with your boss, where did you live?
I lived with my friend, me and a friend named Brian.
And when you lived with Brian, how much rent did you pay?
About $300 a month because it was just for a room.
How many children do you have?
2.
How much child support do you pay?
The child support is, my son is not legally mine. I accepted that responsibility when he was born, and after she went after his real father for child support, so they dismissed that court order, and for Bella it's $246, I think it is.
How much child support do you pay?
$246.
He doesn't pay child support.
When was the last time you paid child support, Mr. Ware?
It's been a couple years because my ex-wife put a letter in. She said that when she required me to pay child support, that I didn't see the kids regularly, so she wrote a letter to the district attorneys in Sacramento County.
That's hearsay. I just asked you a simple question. When was the last time you paid child support? You said several years ago.
Yeah.
You just told me that you used your apartment, sir, this apartment that you were living in and having half the rent paid by the plaintiff for both yourself and your children when you had them. So clearly you were seeing your children within the last 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
But you haven't been paying child support.
No.
Is this your boss?
Yes, it is.
How did I know that? Are you paid on the books or off the books?
On the books. I'm 1099.
And how much was your 1099 last year?
I didn't work for him last year.
Yes, he did.
Mr. Ware, he doesn't even want to stand up anymore and get involved with this, sir. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
You just told me you lived with your boss last year before you moved in with her.
Last year. What's
your last name, sir?
McWee, ma'am.
You want to leave now?
No, ma'am.
You might want to rethink that. You get me? Good. So you're paid in cash and you don't pay taxes and you don't pay child support. You're supposed to pay your own rent.
I did. My house.
Well, you didn't pay, no, your own rent. Listen to me, Mr. 37 years old. You live in this country. You work for him. You're supposed to pay taxes like everybody else, which you don't do. You have children, 2, or maybe just 1. They come to visit you, and yet you have no fiscal responsibility for them. The rest of her lawsuit is, she says, A, she made a small loan to you for a lawyer. I'm not so interested in that, $199. But she said that you had no credit. Well, the reason you have no credit is because you allegedly have no income. So that she put all the utilities in her name. She put all the utilities in her name, left them in her name because she had no credit, and you didn't pay the bill, even when she was paying her half of the rent. Sir?
I was giving her half my check. She went over to my boss's house and received money from them.
You mean after she moved out?
After she moved out?
I'm talking about after she moved out.
After she moved out, I told her she threatened to turn everything off. I told her to go ahead and turn everything off.
Oh, she should have.
So?
And she didn't.
And she didn't.
And did you turn the lights on?
I
Listen to me. Did you turn the lights on?
Yes, I did.
Did you turn the stove on?
Yes,
did you
I did.
plug in a coffee maker?
Yes, I did.
So you used the juice. When you use the juice, you have to pay for it. Did you use the telephone?
Yes, I did.
If you use the telephone, you have to pay. If you're an American citizen and you use the roads and you use the other services that the government provides, you have to pay taxes. How much were your electric bills and service bills after you moved out? I'm talking about just for him.
Yes, the dish bill came to $292.23. I actually put a passcode on there around October 20th when I found out there was adult movies rented on there.
He had to do something to keep himself occupied. Next.
Sure West bill was $260.14.
Is that it?
Yes, and if you're not going to do the attorney bill.
No. $552, rounding it out, Bert. Thank you. Is that right?
Close.
No sense. Good. $552. Now, let's talk about the cruise, Mr. Ware. You told her to go ahead and book the cruise?
cruise was planned before I met her. We had been talking about it amongst friends before she moved in, and her sister is a friend of my boss.
Did you tell her to go ahead and book the cruise?
No, I did not.
That's not what you said here, sir.
My boss's wife booked
That's not what you said here, sir, in your answer. Just because you broke up doesn't mean that you don't pay for half the cruise. You pay for half the cruise. What?
In order to get the cruise, you have to do double occupancy.
Don't speak to me sitting down.
Sorry, ma'am. We told them both prior to this going that if anything happened, that you have to pay double occupancy to get on this cruise in order to get all the cabins together. So I said, if something happens, you can't change it, you can't get the money back, and they were both aware of that.
You made that clear to both of them?
Correct.
Terrific. Thank you. You can sit down.
I gave Gerald every opportunity to go on that cruise.
Listen, it happens. He's got to pay for half the cruise because you're out the money. Do you understand?
No, I don't, but...
Well, it's very, very easy, sir. There's no way that you wanted to go on this cruise, and there's no way that you were going to share a cabin together. Somebody was going to go on the cruise. Now, it is my sense that if you said to her, I will give you the $2,000, I will go on the cruise instead of you, she would have said, great.
No.
She would have said to you, great. You go on the cruise, and I won't. But right now, she had $2,000 invested in this cruise, and she hadn't seen a penny from you.
Yes, she had, ma'am.
Oh, really? You paid for some?
I was giving her all my checks that I was receiving from him.
Checks?
To
You
pay
get cash.
for,
Listen to me.
well, cash, to pay for credit card bills that were outstanding when we
We're
met.
not talking credit card bills, sir.
That's
We're talking
how
about the cruise.
That's how the cruise was paid, on credit card.
How much money were you giving her?
I was receiving $500 a week.
In what?
In cash.
Cash. I love it when a game plan comes together. Just think of it this way, sir. It's your contribution to taxes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,552.
Judge,
That's all.
I have some jewelry I want to give back to his daughter.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Bail bondsman Aaron McAllister says former client Elena Zadevich owes for unpaid bail money.
What were you arrested for, Miss Zadevich?
I was arrested on false charges of domestic violence that my ex filed against me.
I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
that you would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it, please?
a bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Madam,
listen to me very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You chose...
We had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no, not
yes,
I was forced to sign.
Yes, I did sign that agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McAllister.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car...
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay me.
No, just a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated...
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says... It was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
Because he's not telling you the whole truth.
Go
what
ahead.
happened, he bails me out.
Are
he
you
knows I
just a
don't-
second? Are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you
Yes.
telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements? You're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
about what
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What do you
Listen to
lie
me.
about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. It's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's
he
not an
asked me-
agreement.
No,
That's
and after
not.
that-
No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no
I
contract.
said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
It doesn't-
So he
No,
said,
madam.
we can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you
a
are, because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you signed this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said?
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off. Right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's
Signing.
why I asked you the question before.
Yeah,
It's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Store owner Daniel Alvarez is suing his customer, Carmen Burgos, for cashing a counterfeit check at his store. Carmen says she was the victim of an internet scam.
Mr. Alvarez, what kind of store do you have, sir?
I have a general store. We sell music, we cash checks, we sell satellite. It's a little bit of everything.
The defendant was a customer of yours?
A regular customer. She had been there at least 4 or 5 occasions cashing checks.
And you charge a fee for that?
Yes, we do.
According to your complaint, sir, she came in with a check, which you cashed for her.
Correct.
And it turned out to be a bad check.
Yes.
And your bank withdrew the money from your account, You want her to compensate you for the check.
That is correct.
Ms. Burgos says it was a bad check. She was conned with this check, and she's sorry that you're out the money, but it's not her fault. It's the fault of the people who scammed her. That's her defense. Is that correct,
Yes,
Ms.
Your
Burgos?
Honor. I
right.
shouldn't
So
be
I
held
want you to
liable
tell-
for it.
What?
I shouldn't be held liable for it because I had
Ms.
the
Burgos.
evidence. Yes.
Let's start from the beginning. Where did you get this check from?
It was mailed to me.
From an employer?
No, I'm always on the computer and I'm always filling out sweepstakes and filling out numbers for lotto and that. So when I received the check...
So you received the check because you thought you won a prize?
Yes, correct.
But she didn't tell me that, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Don't interrupt her.
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, he wasn't there at the moment.
Listen to me.
Yes.
You got a check in the mail and you didn't know where it came from.
Correct. Yes, I thought
So
it was
you thought
a
maybe
sweepstakes.
that you had played around with on the computer?
Yes, correct.
You have a copy of the letter?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Well, I have a copy because I gave Mr. Alvarez the original and the envelope that it came in.
Shh. Mr. Alvarez, I don't want you to interrupt her.
That's the original. That is the original. Cool.
And I also gave him the envelope it came in.
Now, this letter says that you won the North American Ballot Sweepstakes.
Correct.
And it tells you to call Debbie Baum in Canada.
Yes, Your Honor, and that's who I called.
Just for my own information, when you called her, what is it that you claim she said to you?
Well, I called her because at first I like... Well,
Joe, tell me. Just answer my question.
I asked her about that I had received a check for a sweepstake for the sum of $2,900. And she told me yes, and I told her, well, it says here for processing. She goes, oh, no, that's no problem. You could go ahead and change. That's part of what you have won. There's 72 people that are in with it.
I read the letter.
too.
There's 72 people that are going to share in $1.8 million.
Right, and that's just the beginning of it, so you could go ahead and cash it.
Cash
So
it.
that's right.
Fine.
I went to
Do you have a
Mr.
copy of the check?
Yes, I have
I'd
the
like
original.
to see it. Oh, you have the original?
Yes.
Love
the bank
to see
returned it to me.
Love to see it. Shh. So you took the check into him?
Yes, correct.
To cash?
Yes. Like I've taken other checks.
State Employees Credit Union of Maryland, Inc. Well, I have to tell you, this certainly looks like, to my untrained eye, an official kind of check.
Correct. That's why I went to him and I
Right.
cashed it.
Miss Burgos, I got it. You thought you woke up and it was your lucky day.
Yes, correct.
Bird, take a look at this. An interesting looking check? Right?
Wow. It even says official check.
It even says
Correct.
official
That's
check.
why I never-
And, just a minute, and they don't even ask you to do anything, like
Correct.
send them
That's
back
why-
half in this letter.
That's why I was like...
Don't, I'm speaking. Don't bother me. They don't even ask you to send back half. You know, sometimes say, send us $500 as a processing fee, and they just said, here's your $2,900.
Does it in the back?
Yeah. She signed it, and it came back that it was suspected counterfeit. In any event, you gave her the money.
Yes, I did.
You have proof of that?
Just from the bank when they took the money out because...
I'd like to see it. Now, when you were notified by the bank,
Right.
yeah, they charged your account for $29.50.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when did you cash the check for her? On what date?
Around the 14th of November.
And the bank returned the check to you when?
They didn't return it until the 20th or 21st, but they notified me 2 days later. First,
So
they
on the
notified me.
16th.
Correct.
And when did you
I'm sorry, Your Honor,
notify?
it was after that.
Stop talking out! This is not a tea party! Now, when did you notify Miss Burgos?
That same day.
On the 16th,
Exactly.
2 days later.
Exactly.
How did you notify her?
I called her son-in-law because I know her son-in-law very well, and I called him up and I asked him to bring her over.
And when did he bring her over?
That same day.
On the 16th?
Exactly.
Okay, now tell me on the 16th what you said to her and what she
I
said.
told her, Miss Burgos, this check has returned counterfeit from the bank.
And she said to you?
I didn't know. And she produced this letter.
Good.
Correct. I said I
Just-
didn't
just
know.
a- So why didn't you return the money to him?
At the moment, I didn't have the money. I had paid some of debts that I had.
Just
So
a second. What difference does that make to him? Put your hand down. First of all, it's 2 days later.
It's
Show-
not 2 days later, Your Honor. It was more than 2 days
How
later.
many days?
It was about 4 or 5 days later.
4 days. Show me what debts you paid.
Well, I had some medical bills that I had to pay, so I went
Just a
ahead.
second. So So you paid your medical
Sure.
bills. Medical bills. What else? What else did you pay?
My electric bill, my phone bill, all my bills, and
Now let me ask you this question, Ms. Burgos. Before you came into this cash windfall, how did you pay your electric bill?
Well, I would pay it monthly.
From what?
From what I receive, and also.
What do you
my
mean from what you
children's-
receive? I don't understand that statement. Do you
You
work?
know, I get a Social Security check every month.
For what?
For disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
For asthma, arthritis.
You have asthma and arthritis and you can't work?
No.
I know a lot of people who have asthma and arthritis who can work just fine.
I had back problems. I was diagnosed with disability. So
Wait, just a second. When were you diagnosed with a disability from asthma and arthritis?
2 years ago.
Ms. Burgos, I'm believing less and less of what you tell me, madam, but I will tell you this. If you paid your bills, which you are responsible for paying, your medical bills, your electric bill, your phone bill, and I don't care what other kind of bills you paid, allegedly, and I know you're lying. Listen to me, and I know you're lying anyway.
No, I bought a few Christmas
Listen to me
presents,
very
yes.
carefully, and I know you're lying anyway. Then you have to pay him back the money.
Correct.
You paid your bills. You paid your bills. You're a scammer. Let me ask you this question. Who do you live with?
I live with my son and my daughter.
How old are they?
My daughter's 22 and my son is 19.
And what does your daughter do for a living?
She works. And my son
And your
also.
son?
He works.
Works.
They're the ones that help me with all the bills.
Because you don't work?
Yes.
Because of your asthma?
Yes.
She didn't tell me that. That day when she came in, she told me that she had only spent about $500 to $700
No, I told you that's
of
what
the
I
money.
had.
Burgos,
I had $500
Miss
to
Burgos.
$700.
I asked her specifically.
That's what I told him I had.
Did you give it to him?
No. He told me.
Shh. So why did you spend that money instead of giving it back to him?
Well, I didn't have it on me at that time.
Why didn't you go home and get it?
The gentleman told me, Mr. Alvarez told me that he was going to send that letter, the letter from that they had
That is
received
not
to
true.
the bank. Yes, it is, Mr. Alvarez.
Just
that
a second.
he was going
So
to take
what?
that
If
letter
there's a
to
question,
the
listen
bank.
to me. If there's a question, why didn't you say, listen, if there's a question and if this check was bad, I don't want Mr. Alvarez to be out the rest of this money. I'm going to hold what I haven't spent and give it to him if he's out of pocket.
Well, I had held it. I had it.
So
and
why
when-
didn't you give it to him?
Because when I spoke to Mr. Alvarez on the phone, I told him I have the $500. He says, no, I want all the money. That's what he said.
That is
and I
true?
says, well, I don't have all the money at the moment, okay? I could give you at least $500 at a time. He said, no, I want all the money at the same time.
You want to know something? You're a scammer.
It was-
You've been scamming
no.
Social Security in all probability for the
No,
last
I
2
haven't.
years.
I
I don't know
haven't.
how you got Social Security disability. How old are you?
I'm 47.
47. I know people who are 67 with asthma, they work.
No, I am disabled.
You must have had a
It was-
really, really fine lawyer. You owe him $2,950, Miss Burgos. You're a scammer, and you knew you did the wrong thing as soon as he told you that that check came back.
Yes.
People very rarely get windfalls of money from the internet. Very rarely.
not a
Don't look like this to me.
I'm
I
not a
don't
scammer
know.
because
I don't know how I
that
got
letter
Social
had-
Security disability. I don't know where I got this check from. I don't know. Well, now you know that this man who was doing you a favor cashed your check and got penalized because of your stupidity. He got penalized. But you said, listen, I got the money. Let him go after the people.
I
Let him
told
go
her
after.
not to
I'm
spend the money.
speaking.
No, I didn't.
Let
tell
him go
I
after
didn't
the
think
people.
That way. I did not think that way.
Well, then
I
you
did
should
not
have
think
returned
that
the
way.
money that you hadn't spent.
Okay, I did not. He didn't want the money that I had not spent.
So you spent
All
the
he
rest.
said-
Just a
no,
second. Hey,
I still have the $500.
Supposed to set an example, Miss Burgos, for your children. You're not supposed to be a scammer.
I'm not a scammer.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And you believed in getting something for nothing.
No, I
And
have
you
never
put him in a
believed
very
that getting
precarious
nothing for
position.
nothing.
You've got a lot of nerve.
I've never.
You've got a
believed
lot
I
of
would
nerve.
get
Your children
something for
should
nothing.
not. Your children are not going to be proud of you after today. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $29.50. That's all. Step out.
Carolyn Tennant is suing her son's friend, 22-year-old Jeffrey Holly, for stealing her golf cart and damaging it while driving drunk.
Miss Tennant, this young man was a friend of your son's?
Yes, ma'am.
You all went camping together.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a golf cart that sort of takes you to and from, I guess,
Yeah.
a lake or shopping or whatever.
Well, it's like the major mode of transportation out there.
And other people have golf carts. Mr. Holly took your golf cart without your permission.
Correct.
And he was drunk.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And he had an accident.
Yes.
Your golf cart was damaged.
Correct.
And the golf cart of the other people was damaged.
Yes, ma'am.
The other people sued you as the golf cart owner.
Yes.
Successfully.
Yes.
And you believe that Mr. Holly has the responsibility of compensating you for both that judgment
Yes.
and the damage to your golf cart.
Correct.
Mr. Holly says that it wasn't his fault.
Yes, ma'am.
And he should have been able to go to court and prove that. And since he didn't have that opportunity because you proceeded without him, he's not responsible. Did I identify your position, Mr. Holly?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
I have to find out a little bit about you, sir. Age.
Age 22.
Occupation.
Basement waterproofing and foundation wall rebuilds.
Number of times arrested.
Since I turned 18, 3 times.
For what?
Disorderly conduct, a malicious assault, and unauthorized use of heavy equipment.
Were you drinking during any one of those 3 arrests?
Yes, ma'am, the disorderly conduct.
Now, have you ever had convictions for any of those things?
Yes, ma'am.
Ever go to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
I did 1 week, and then I got out on a signature bond.
Are those cases over?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Holly, you and booze don't get along, sir.
Yes, I agree, ma'am.
Do you want to tell me what happened with Miss Tennant's golf cart?
Yes, ma'am, I do. That night, it was Memorial Weekend, and there was a bunch of us out there together, and, everybody being of age recently, we all decided, we were going to get drunk and have a good time. They have dances at the barn, whatnot.
You know that you don't have a good time when you get drunk.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that,
You really understand that. Most of the time you don't remember. Most of the time you act stupid. Most of the time you get sick afterwards. You really have a much better time if you're sober. That doesn't mean you can't drink. That just means that you have a better time if you're not drunk. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
But you got drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And?
And I decided to take the golf cart keys from the top of the front. There was people driving it all day and most of the night. I figured, why not? We were just going to go around the block and come right back. There was another golf cart passing filled with some people that lived down at the next camper down. And I thought they were going to stop, and I guess they thought I was going to stop, and it didn't work out that way.
So?
So I ran into the side of them. They proceeded to get off the golf cart and just completely make an enormous deal of it. I mean, they're golf carts. They don't go over 10 miles an hour.
No, they go faster than that.
And during all this, everything started getting out of control. People were yelling at each other. One of the ladies on the golf cart, her fiancé, decided to sucker punch me. Then I was held from defending myself once I found out in that township I could legally defend myself once somebody put their hands on me. I was held from defending myself. And why couldn't I get any, closure on that? Because I did make a police report on it, and I figured
You wanted closure. Tell me how you wanted to get closure.
We were going to make a deal. My brother was going to give the guy $1,500 for his golf cart.
No. I'm talking about you wanted to get closure from being sucker punched, you said.
Yeah, either a chance to defend myself at that moment in time,
or punch him back. You wanted to punch him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were prohibited from doing that. How, sir?
Because Alan Reining grabbed me and basically pushed me backwards and bear hugged me and wouldn't let me.
Wouldn't let you punch him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have given you closure.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been watching too many psychological programs that seem to be proliferating in daytime television, sir. Not everything gives you closure. You usually refer to the fact that you want closure when somebody in your family dies. You go and visit them and you say, now I have closure. I've seen them, I've said goodbye. Closure is not usually a thing that one refers to, punching somebody back. That doesn't give you closure. Mr. Holly, you're a very polite young man. Do I make you nervous?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you're sweating?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did it make you nervous when you appeared before the other judges?
Not really.
But I scare you.
Yes, ma'am.
That is a really, really good thing. I've not had a particularly good day today. That is the only thing that's made my day today. The fact that I make you nervous enough to sweat. You owe Mrs. Tennant money. You owe her the money that she spent or will spend to fix her golf cart. And you owe her the judgment that was entered against her for the accident you had when you took her golf cart without permission. Because if you go back, Mr. Holly, these are the objective facts. I'm not going to really scream and yell at you because you've been so polite. I'm going to say it easily so you can get my drift. A, you were drunk. You should never have gotten behind the wheel of any instrument that was moving because you weren't exercising good judgment. B, you got behind the wheel of it without permission. So in effect, you stole it. You had an accident. You're responsible to reimburse her for any out-of-pocket expenses that she had. And her out-of-pocket expenses were?
$1,782.50.
$1,782.50. And 50 cents. That's your liability, Mr. Holly. That's your legal responsibility. And if you don't want to incur that kind of obligation, you're not supposed to get drunk and act stupid so that you really don't know what's going on. You're not supposed to take people's property without permission. You're not supposed to get behind something that goes even 10 miles an hour when you're drunk. All of those things you did. Just say, it's going to make you feel better and you're going to stop sweating. It's my fault. It's my fault. I was drunk. I took your property. I caused you aggravation. I'm sorry. I will make you whole. And if you can't do that, Mr. Holly, I will. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,782.50.
23-year-old Erin King is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Avian Moses, for stopping payment on a rent check. Avian claims Erin kicked her out after 2 weeks of living together.
Ms. King, the defendant was your roommate for a short period of time. It is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Ms. Moses, you moved into Ms. King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305, including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying.
Right, and I have that as well.
So that was November 14th. So far you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen. And I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts. And during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Erin of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook. I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I will pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem. And I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Erin had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop paying my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't
called
even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave
She
immediately.
called me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check, and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, gave them that. I wasn't...
When did she take it out, or did she still not
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser,
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because... Yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it. She changed the locks.
Listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. The court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is not the first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $150, $250.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did.
$150, $250. Absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
23-year-old Lisa Murray is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Ish Easton, for the cost of a plane ticket to New Jersey. Ish claims Lisa is being vindictive.
Miss Murray, Mr. Easton and you dated briefly, according to your complaint, and you believe he owes you for an airline ticket that you purchased for him in order that the two of you go home to meet the parents. And then you broke up for the trip. Mr. Easton says that the going home to meet the parents was strictly your idea. He never asked you to buy the ticket. You bought it on your own, so you pay for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you meet him?
February 2006. We were working together.
And when did you start dating?
We started dating in the beginning of June 2006.
And when did you want to go and introduce him to your family?
Through the month of June or in the beginning of July 2006, our relationship became serious.
No. You're talking so fast I can hardly understand you. I asked you a simple question. When did you want to take him home to meet your parents?
July 2006.
After 4 weeks? Why?
Well, I had missed my family very much, and he also said that he would like to go. He was excited about going to see New York City and seeing New Jersey.
If he was so excited, why didn't he buy his own ticket?
He currently did not have the money at the time, nor did he have a credit card.
What was the arrangement that you made with him?
That when we came back from our trip, that he would be reimbursing me.
And when did you break up?
September.
And when were you supposed to go to New York?
September 9th, 2006.
I'll hear you.
After she had initially brought the idea to go visit her parents, I told her then, I was like, well, I don't have money.
No, look at me.
Oh, I told her then, I don't have money to pay you back for any kind of ticket before we even discussed repaying anything.
Why would you say that to her? I thought you met at work.
This is after we started dating, man.
No, listen to me. You're not listening. You don't have your listening ears on. You said, I don't have any money. And she just told me that you met at work in February of 2006. What kind of work were you doing?
I, at the time, was working at Home Depot, man.
And in July, where were you working?
I worked for a structural engineering firm.
And in August?
Still worked there, man.
Okay, so you were working. You were employed.
Yes.
Do you have children?
No, before dating Miss Murray, I was in a previous relationship. Separating from that relationship, I had to move back home. But upon moving back home, my parents were like, well, you got to help pay bills and stuff like that. So I pay half of everything.
So?
Leaving pretty much nothing.
Well, that's not true. You have money to eat out, right?
On occasion, ma'am. And that was money that I was like, Mom, you know, can I borrow $50 to go out? Or
Mr. Easton, when you discussed with Miss Murray going to New York, I don't believe that you said to her, I don't have the money to pay you now, and I'll never have the money to pay you back. Because I don't think that under those circumstances she would have continued to see you, because that would have sounded like something a bum would say. I don't have money now, maybe. I'll never have money to pay you back. I wouldn't have taken you to meet my parents. I would have been humiliated to take you. You're a bum. If you say, I'll never have any money to buy an airline ticket for $295. So I don't believe that you said that to her. I believe that you probably said to her, I don't have money to pay for it now. That I believe. Now, when did she buy the ticket?
She called me and was like, I bought tickets to go to New Jersey.
No, you had already discussed it. So don't say it came as a surprise to you.
I don't know.
It didn't come as a surprise.
I don't know the exact date of her.
When did you
buying
purchase the tickets?
July 25th, I purchased the tickets. I have phone calls.
Shh. And she told you that she purchased them in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you were working in Home Depot?
I was working at Home Depot and the engineering firm at the same time.
So two places?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the ticket?
I was unable to refund it because he broke up with me within 24 hours prior to canceling it.
You have the bill?
Yes.
Why did you break up right before you were ready to leave for New York, sir?
Well, there was a span of like 2 weeks where her and I barely ever saw each other. And that was because my work schedule at the engineering firm went from a regular 8-hour day to 9 to 12-hour days. And I didn't have time to see her. It was work, home, work, bed, pretty much.
Okay.
A gentleman that I play football with, his girlfriend and Miss Murray became very good friends, hanging out, had informed me that the plaintiff had gone to MySpace and read a quote that I'd written on MySpace. And that was one of the first issues. One of the other issues was
Did you say something not nice about her?
I didn't say anything toward her at all. The quote that I left on my page said, due to the pain caused by love, to love I say. And that was nothing toward her previous relationship exactly to that. Then it went from that to she had been saying, oh, I don't have money, I don't have money, I don't have money. Well, then my friend's girlfriend is like, oh, we went shopping today. And Lisa bought this, and Lisa bought that, and Lisa bought this.
Why does it make any difference to you whether she said, I don't have money?
Well, because if you're going to tell me you don't have money, then how are you going to turn around and go shopping?
She wasn't asking for money from you, was she?
Initially broke up with her because she lies. You can't trust a liar. You can trust a thief because you know they're going to steal. You can trust a killer, you know they're going to kill, but you can't trust a liar. I asked her, I said, well, did you go on my MySpace page and read that? She said no. And before that, I said, is there anything you want to tell me about that you haven't said to me in the past? No, there's nothing I can think of.
You're going to get your $2 back for the ticket. Before you leave, you should get down on the floor, on all fours, kiss the ground, and say, God, thank you for terminating this relationship, because this guy is no good. No bargain, no good, no way. I don't know much about you. I don't know if you're good, but I can tell you right now, he's a bum. He's always going to be a bum, because he makes excuses for what he does that bear no resemblance to reality. That's what he just did. He just gave me a whole cock and bull story. In reality, he probably found somebody else to cover some of his bills. Because when someone is so smitten with a woman, they don't not see them for 2 weeks. They may give up sleeping, but they won't go work, job, work, school, work, and not see the person for whom they have lost their heart. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So he made up a whole big story. Nothing in his story was true. So you're a very lucky girl that you got rid of him, because for somebody who doesn't like lying, he has become very proficient at it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $295. That's all.
Michelle Garcia claims ex-fiancé Nicholas Byman owes for breaking an apartment lease and for an assault. Nicholas claims Michelle attacked him first.
Ms. Garcia, this is your boyfriend, or used to be your boyfriend, according to your complaint. He assaulted you, causing you to have medical bills. He made it so because of the stress that he created by his actions that you couldn't work, thereby causing you to lose your apartment and the lease. He owes you for the assault, for pain and suffering, for your medical bills, etc., etc., etc. Mr. Byman says that you were a nag, you bugged him over his drug use and his lack of employment, that you pushed him and things sort of got out of control.
Correct.
How long were you, Mr. Byman, together?
We started dating on February 17th of 05. And soon got engaged after that.
Are you engaged now?
No.
To anyone?
No.
So this baby is his?
Yes.
When did you move in together?
We moved to San Diego in April, and we were in a hotel room trying to find an apartment for 3 months, and then finally got an apartment on June 6th of 05, and we were there up until the end of October when we both were evicted.
But he wasn't living there when you were actually evicted from the apartment?
He was in jail.
And when was he incarcerated?
He was incarcerated 3 different times for
the last time.
The last time was October 12th.
The arrest was for an assault on you. Those charges were somehow disposed of, but he had prior arrest warrants, so he was held.
Technically, it was October 8th, and I had a court case in Sacramento on October 10th. After I couldn't make my court appearance because I was in custody in San Diego, Sacramento put a hold on me. I spent 10 days down in San Diego, and then finally they transported me up to Sacramento to take care of my case up there.
What kind of case did you have there?
I think it was 475 of the Penal Code.
Don't play with me.
It was intent to defraud, ma'am.
Intent to defraud who?
A bank.
Were you sentenced yet?
Yes.
To what?
90 days of work project and 4 years of probation.
Is that the only outstanding case you had?
When I was arrested one of the 3 times, they tested me for drugs and I came up positive.
How long have you had a drug problem, Mr. Byman?
Off and on for years.
How many years? 10?
Started smoking weed at 13 years old, so probably since then.
How old are you now?
26.
13. But you graduated from marijuana to?
Methamphetamine.
Did Miss Garcia, was she aware that you had a drug problem?
Yes.
Did she have a drug problem?
No.
That was poor judgment on your part.
Thought I could help him and save him. Move him to San Diego and get him away from the drugs and the crime.
Well, that's fine. You can try to save him. You don't have to have a baby in the bargain.
Yeah.
Now, according to what I read, Mr. Byman, in the complaint and in your answer, a lot of the fighting that occurred while you were together was because of your drug use and lack of employment. Is that right?
That was part of it, but just money was also a big issue.
Lack of employment.
Yeah.
And then you said something interesting in here. You said, well, at some point you went into a drug rehabilitation program.
Yes.
But you and I both know, Mr. Byman, that when you have a 13-year drug habit, a 10-day rehab program doesn't cut it. Like putting a Band-Aid on an open heart surgery. It doesn't work. Have you since gone into a long-term residential program?
Actually, I'm looking right now.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
So you want to tell me what happened in October?
In October, we had many nights where I stayed up trying to help him through his problems. And that night, I had come down on him saying that what is something bad going to have to happen to you to get you to do the things that you need to do. And I can't marry you until you get a job. I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I have lupus, and I've had 2 major back surgeries. I've had actually 7 surgeries in the last 5 years. And so, therefore, my benefits would be taken away if I married him. And that was one of the major fights. That night, he got very forceful with me. And
look at me.
I slipped out of his arms and got out and left. I left a message on the phone. I said, are you going to stay? I need to know. He never called. I decided that I would just come back in the morning. When I got there with my girlfriend, he was still there. He had slipped out the door. We passed each other and didn't say a word to each other. Basically, we were wanting to find out if he was using still at that point, and it was pretty obvious to me. I stayed there for about 4 hours, got some things ready, then took my girlfriend home. I was gone for about 2 hours, came back, and at that time...
What'd you come back for?
I had nowhere else to go. I was pregnant and exhausted. And
why didn't you stay with your girlfriend?
Why didn't I stay with her? Didn't even ask. It was the apartment. I thought he was gone. He left when we were passing.
What makes you think that he was gone? Just because he walked out then? He didn't walk out with
he was leaving. He had his stuff packed and he was leaving.
He had stuff packed with him when he left?
Yes, he said he was leaving.
The only thing I had with me, Your Honor, was a laptop.
He had a backpack, suitcase.
All your clothes there?
Yes, clothes.
Okay.
All my...
So you went back, Miss Garcia?
Yes, I went back. My dog.
You went back?
I went back to my apartment.
You went back. Don't make excuses. Who is this?
This is my mother.
Don't make excuses to your mother. You went back.
Yeah, of course
right.
I went back. My girlfriend did not have a place to stay for me to stay
Go to
either.
your mother's house.
My mother lives 600 miles away.
I don't care. Get on a plane. If you're afraid of somebody, that's what you do. You don't go back to the apartment, knowing that all of his clothes and stuff is still there.
I wasn't that afraid of him at the time.
Okay, so you went back.
So I went back.
Okay.
And he showed up. He was actually in the apartment hiding behind the bedroom wall and jumped out at me. And that's when he held me down, saying something to me, just listen, and was holding me down. He would pick me up and throw me on the couch, and then I would slip out of his hold, and then he would catch me and do it again, and then catch me and do it again. And that went on for about 45 minutes. I remember screaming through the window, help, help, at the top of my lungs, that I didn't have a voice afterwards. I finally, don't know how, but after he hit me in the stomach, I don't know if it was with his fist or with something, but I couldn't breathe.
Did you hit her?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I was able to run through the hallway. I had my keys hanging up in the hallway there on this caddy, and grabbed them and ran out the door. He followed me outside, down the stairs, and proceeded to want to hold me down. And then I think he realized that we were outside, and I was crawling to the car to get into the car to lock myself in the car. And my neighbor saw me, called the police, ambulance came. I was in sinus tac. Went into trauma for about 6 hours. They kept me over the night, watched the baby, make sure the baby was okay. It was about 5 months pregnant. So, which the baby's fine, thank goodness. But we have not been together since.
Go ahead.
I've tried to get him to help pay these bills off. I've been paying them little by little what I can.
Which bills?
The apartment. I haven't started paying the apartment bill yet, which is the eviction and the attorney's fees and what we had owed on the last 2 months, or what he had owed on the last 2 months, actually. He never paid rent, not once. That and the Time Warner Cable, SD Genie, cell phone bills, you name it. I'm paying all of it. We still owe about $11,000 right now, and I'm currently just paying $25, $5 when I can.
Well, show me. Show me that you're paying them.
Let's see. Here's a bill for, there's just 1,000 of them. The bill for the TV, the bill for...
I don't want you to show me the bills. I want you to show me that you paid them.
Yeah, it's got receipts attached to them.
Great. Can I see it, please?
These are the receipts. Let's see here. Then I've got my ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill yet.
You have the medical bill there?
I have the ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill.
No. What I want you to answer, Ms. Garcia, if you are on disability, which means you also have medical coverage based upon your disability, I want to see what the disability covered. You have Medicaid?
They haven't covered this. I just got this in the mail. And it's Medi-Cal, yes.
Medi-Cal. Well, then that has to be submitted to them.
Yes, it does. I think he should have to pay it, though. Why should the state have to pay something that he caused?
You want a check written to the state, written to the ambulance? Well, that means that he's going to give you less money once this baby is born. Wouldn't that be stupid?
Yeah, like he's going to give me any money.
Wouldn't that be stupid?
Would.
All right. Let's not play around with each other.
The bill that I'm here for, the $5,000 bill, I have not started paying on this because I don't have the money. That's why we're here. I'm suing him for this money.
What bill?
This is our apartment eviction bill. We got evicted. There's attorney's fees. It ends up being $5,493. He assumes that I'm going to pay this. I'm not.
Oh, you're not. You're not. You're just going to pay half.
I've paid half since we moved into that apartment.
No. That's your choice, Ms. Garcia, my dear. That's your choice. If you chose to stay in that apartment and you chose to move in with him knowing that he had a drug problem, we were trying to save him, your saving him didn't work out, I'm not interested in the fact that you assumed the responsibility of paying the rent despite the fact that you had an agreement that you were each going to contribute half. Just as if it didn't work out between the two of you and you had to stop working or doing whatever you do because you were pregnant, I wouldn't permit him to come to court and say, well, it didn't work out. I paid all the rent. We had an agreement that she would pay half the rent. She stopped working. So I chose to continue to pay the rent. You even went back there in October hoping that it would all work out after you left the apartment and came back with your friend. Now, I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened on the 8th of October.
Actually, it started on the 7th. We got in an argument about the money that we owed when we went to court for the eviction. They gave us 2 weeks when we went to arbitration.
Hold on a second. You mean you were still together at the time that you were being evicted?
Yes.
Is that right?
We had gone to court during the first month that they approached us and put a note on our door.
Miss Garcia, you understand what I'm saying to you. Living in the apartment, the landlord moved to evict you for non-payment of rent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid
now
half the rent.
Now it becomes clear. Go ahead.
Well, we got in an argument over what we were going to do. I was trying to come up with the money some way, somehow. Couldn't.
Look at me. Don't look at the desk.
Sorry. Well,
You're still looking at the desk.
force of habit. I
Don't.
apologize. Anyway, we argued about the money, how we were going to come up with it. Things got loud, and she ended up just taking off for the night, at which this point I stayed the night, and she came back, like she said, with her friend, which then I grabbed just my laptop and like a jacket and stuff and just took off for the day. Came back around 5 in the evening, which point she started screaming and yelling, like, "What are you doing here, you sick?" I told her I was just trying to get my couple things and go, and that's when everything started escalating, and she slapped me in the face and then scratched the other side of my face, started throwing objects at me, at which point then I did restrain her from hitting me with anything else, and at that point she started screaming, help me," and that went on for a little while longer. Then she ran downstairs like she said, and I got arrested.
You understand that you are responsible for half of what the landlord is owed. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, that's
But-
$2,718.
Well, I didn't pay for either the down payment the first month or the second month. My mother actually paid for all that.
And?
I think she's entitled to that, at least, since...
You mean she's entitled to what the landlord owes her?
Altogether, probably, yes, because I didn't pay for anything, like she said.
I'm not interested in that, sir. Just let's understand that. I couldn't be less interested in what her mother put down, what she put down as a down payment. Those were their choices. Understanding that you had a drug problem, that you lost your job the first week that you moved into the apartment. What you should have done was to move out the first week that you moved into the apartment if you weren't resolving your drug problem. I'm not interested in what her mother did and what she did. I'm interested in what's owed the landlord. So if what's left on the lease is $5,437.17, you're responsible for half of that. But the check will go directly to the landlord. You have to cover the rest. $2,718. Check will be written to the landlord. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. That's all. Thank you.
David McLaughlin and Rachel Browning say former landlords Michael Moreland and Janae Cooper owe for the return of a deposit and for false charges made to police. The defendants are countersuing for rent.
Okay. According to the complaint, you rented a house from the defendants. You gave them a deposit in order to move in. You moved in. You said the house was in deplorable condition. You want your deposit back. You want hotel stay and punitive damages for filing false charges against you with Child Protective Services. The defendants say that you owe them for rent and something that you stole when you left, right?
Yes.
That's what the case is about. Okay. You have children together?
No.
You have children who lived in the house?
Yes.
How many?
2, my daughter Michaela, who's 5 now, and her son Austin, who's 6.
And how long have the two of you been together?
We've been together a year.
Okay. Where were you living before you rented the house from the defendants?
Back in January, I bought a house with my ex-wife, and she filed for divorce about 2 or 3 days after we actually signed for the house. So I had to move out by March 1st so I could get into a house with Rachel, because I knew Rachel from high school. So
I mean, are you a couple, or are you just sharing a house?
we're a couple. We actually got married January 4th of this year.
Okay, so you had to get out fast of your living situation. Did you answer an ad for the defendant's house?
No, we actually were driving around trying to find something. We know I don't have great credit.
Listen, you drove around. Was there a for rent sign?
Yeah, there was a for rent sign.
And you
in the
called?
front. I called the number. And
In
I
what
talked to Janae.
month?
Middle of March. We called about the first 2 weeks of March. And she told me that they had a house for rent, that they had to fix it up a little bit, and that we could look at it the next day. We met them the next day. I looked at it.
And?
It was pretty bad. They had like 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 couches in the living room with a bunch of tables, and it was just everywhere. There was stuff everywhere, every room. And he said he'd have it done by the 1st of April. And then he told us the deposit was $1,850, which is the first month's rent, which is $950 plus $900. And he'll have everything done by the 1st. And I told him that I have a 401k check coming in, my thing from work, and it was $1,300. And then I was going to borrow the money from my grandparents and my mom.
Listen, that's a little too much information for me. You saw the house. It was in deplorable condition. You said you wanted the house as of when?
As of April 1st.
Did you sign a lease?
We did sign a lease. And,
I'd like to see it.
This is the original copy of it.
Lease that provided that you were going to move in on April the 3rd for 6 months. Okay. Did you move in on April the 3rd?
No, he kept saying he had no electricity, he had no water in the house. So we turned on the electricity at the end of March so he could get the paint done in my name. and he had no water in the house, and he owed $300 or $400 for the water. So he had to pay that off so he could get the water running, and then he never had anybody come up there to fix it.
Listen to me. When did you move in?
May 3rd.
You moved in a month late.
A month late. My parents came up from New York, and
I don't care if your parents came up from New York, sir. I have some specific questions. May 3rd you moved in, right?
Yes.
And you gave them the money when?
April 10th, because I gave him $900 before April 3rd, and then we gave him the rest of the money when my parents came up, and I got pictures of the house the way it looked before he actually fixed it.
I don't care what it looked like before he fixed it. That's irrelevant to me. And when did you move out of the house?
The first week of September, because he had a deposit and I was going through divorce and I had a lot of bills I had to pay.
I don't care. So you had to give him first and last.
I got him deposit and first month's rent.
So the deposit was for any damage that might be done and first month's rent.
Yes.
So you owed him rent in June.
Yes.
Did you pay him?
No.
Why not?
He never came to fix our house. My daughter's room had no carpet.
Just a second. Was there carpet before you moved in?
No, not my daughter's room.
Is there anything in the lease that provides that he has to provide for carpet?
It has to be livable.
No. Not everybody likes carpet, sir. Is there anything in this lease that provides that he has to provide carpet?
I'm pretty sure it does say something, and
Show me. I don't want to have to read the whole thing. Take a look. Show me where it says that your daughter's room has to be carpeted.
It says something about the conditions of the premises, including all grounds and buildings and improvements, unless they...
Listen to me. The word carpet.
I don't see carpet in here.
So the lease does not provide for carpet.
No.
Okay, so you didn't pay him for June. Your daughter's room had no carpet.
And her son's room had really old carpet. He said he was going to change in there. It was like shag carpet, and the whole house was completely destroyed.
Listen to me. You moved into it.
Yes.
If it wasn't ready, don't move in. So you moved in, and you didn't pay June's rent.
Yes.
Did you pay July's rent?
No. We had no...
Okay. Don't go there, sir.
Sorry.
I don't want to hear, you're fetching and complaining. You moved your family in, and as soon as you moved in, you stopped paying rent. That's what happened. I mean, that's the objective data.
Yeah.
You moved in, and you stopped paying rent. No June, no July, no August.
Yes.
And what were you doing with the rent money?
I was putting it toward my bills that I had from my divorce. I had a car that was 2 months behind, and like that. And we had a problem with her insurance and stuff at work, but the house was not livable. My dad...
Listen to me. If the house isn't livable, you move out. If it's not livable, you don't move in. And if it's not livable, you move out. You don't scam the landlord by moving in and saying, now I'm here. Now you can't get me out.
Wait, I had nowhere to live.
That's not his problem. Is he related to you by blood?
No.
Who cares if you have nowhere to live? Go live with a relative. Go live with your mother. Go live with your father. Go live with your sister. Go live with your brother. But don't move into a stranger's house and say, now I'm not going to pay rent because I got bills for my divorce.
I mean, we gave him $1,800 for the month. He never came and fixed it.
Just a second.
Okay.
I gave you credit for May's rent. Because he wouldn't have let you move in unless you gave him the 2 months.
Yeah.
Right? So you gave him the 2 months and then you stopped paying him. Outrageous. I mean, you're a squatter. And it's an old scam. You got yourself in, you move yourself in, you say, listen, it's going to take the courts 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get me out. By that time, they're just going to be so happy to get rid of me that they'll just say, go, forget it. And then you move on to some other unsuspected. Outrageous. You get me?
I get you.
Good. If you don't like an apartment, if you don't like a house, you don't move in. Does that sound right to you? You're the police officer, is that right?
Sounds right, Judge.
Right? Nobody's twisting your arm. You don't like the shag carpet? Don't move in. Doesn't mean that much to you. You move in. You want carpet in your daughter's room? Go to Home Depot. Now, the second part of your complaint is that they called Child Protective Services on you.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, we never called Child Protective Services.
Just a second.
They called the police.
Can I ask quite the question, please? Did they call Child Protective Services?
The police did. Once the police came out.
So they called the police?
Yes.
Mr. Moreland?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you call the police?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me why. What month did you call the police?
August or June, somewhere around there.
Well, August and June are 2 different months. Officer,
I'm not sure, Your
Officer,
Honor.
could you stand up, please?
Yes, Judge.
Could you move over there? I know you're not a plaintiff's witness.
Certainly.
But you responded to the location where Mr. McLaughlin and Miss Browning were living.
Yes, I did.
You remember when that was, sir?
It was on June 25th.
And you responded because you got a call about what, sir?
We had a complaint on some photographs containing images of the adults with their children in pornographic poses.
And when you responded to the location, did you find anything?
No, ma'am, we did not. Not anything that related to the complaint.
Okay. Can you describe what you saw when you got to the premises?
When I arrived at the premises, I went inside the residence. The residence was in a messy state. There were boxes every place. It appeared as if somebody was moving out. Some trash, not anything that would be deplorable to live in, but it just appeared to be unorganized and a lot of boxes and packing going on.
But you found nothing untoward?
No.
Were you responsible for calling Child Protective Services?
No, ma'am.
Do you know who did?
More than likely, any reports that we take involving children in a case such as this gets forwarded to CPS automatically.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. You can have a seat. Okay. What made either one of you believe that there were photographs in there involving children?
There was, Your Honor. I haven't heard from McLaughlin for several months, and he didn't pay me for about 5 months, and he changed the locks on the premises, which on the lease it states here that if you don't pay rent or if you change the locks, I have the right to enter the premises.
Okay.
So I enter the home, and I see in the living room there's mattresses laying on the floor, 5 to 7 digital cameras laying around.
Did you,
pictures.
Sir, officer, one more thing. When you went into the premises, did you see any mattresses on the floor?
Ma'am, I don't recall if there are any mattresses on the floor. I do remember the complaint of the video cameras. Mr. Moreland believed that there was some type of filming possibly going on involving the children in their rooms. When I responded, I checked on that complaint. I looked at the camera. Nothing that
What kind of
appeared to be-
cameras, sir? Still cameras, movie cameras?
There are several different kinds. Still cameras, some video recorders, camcorders, but nothing.
How many would you say?
Approximately 5 to 7, but they were in broken states. They didn't work. They were not set up on stands. I didn't see any evidence of any type of recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you take pictures of what you saw?
Yes, Your Honor, right next to the child's bed. There was an open box of two open boxes, and he also had plenty of time before the police entered the property to dispose of what I seen.
Don't tell me, that's supposition.
That's not carpet. If I like to add some.
These were taken the day that you called the police? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Officer, would you step up, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Would this be a fair and accurate representation of the condition of the house when you saw it?
Yes, that does appear to be taken in June.
Thank you. Mr. Moreland was perfectly right to pick up the phone and call the police and have them come to at least look into what was going on in that house. You moved in, according to you, on May the 3rd. This house looks like a disaster area, an absolute disaster area. And I'm not even addressing the pornographic material that's there, which, by the way, you acknowledge that you had in the house, but you say it was, in fact, put away so that the children couldn't reach it. Well, somebody reached it. It may have even been Mr. Moreland, but somebody reached it. I'm not even addressing the pornographic stuff that involved what appeared to be young children, which is weird. The condition of the house would lead a normal person to believe that something wasn't right there. So he had an absolute right to call the police, and the police had an absolute responsibility to call Child Protective Services. So your complaint is dismissed. Now let's get to your counterclaim. You're suing for the rent for the time that they lived there. Rent was how much a month?
$950.
When did they move out?
They actually moved out in October. They did not move out in June.
June, July, August, September, October. 5 months. $4,750. Listen, they're scammers.
I know you are.
Period. Squatters and scammers. And based upon the photographs that I saw, not very responsible parents either. Now, you don't mind my not going into this grill that they allegedly took? I don't care about a grill. They owe you for rent. And how much did it cost you, Mr. Moreland and Miss Cooper, to get them out? Or did they just move?
They eventually just moved, but trying to fix up the house after they left, we had to end up filing a bankruptcy because of the mortgage and everything else wasn't paid, and that cost us $4,200 just to file that.
So you see, when you have a problem with your ex-wife and bills that built up during the divorce, and you go to scam somebody else, what happens is they get hurt. It's a trickle-down effect because they didn't have money to pay the mortgage because you didn't pay the rent and you refused to move out of the house. Perfect strangers had trouble. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, both of you. And I certainly think Child Protective Services should give another look to where you're living now. Where are you living now?
Decatur Township.
You know where that is, sir?
I do, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,700. Claim is dismissed. That's all.
22-year-old Catherine Govis is suing the father of her child, 23-year-old Brian Epley, for the value of a computer. Brian claims he supported Catherine the entire time they lived together.
Miss Govis, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Who do you live with?
My parents.
You have a baby?
Yes.
How old is the baby?
6 months.
How old are you?
23.
Who do you live with?
My parents.
Well, there was a time that you lived together because you have a child together. That didn't last very long, and according to your complaint, he owes you for a computer that you purchased on your credit while you were together. Mr. Epley says that you left the computer when you left him, and you left the computer because he had supported you for 6 months while you were pregnant, and your arrangement was that you were each supposed to contribute to half of the expenses for the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Ugh. Is there any reason why you decided to have this child?
We were together for 3 years off and on.
Together off and on, Miss Govis suggests to me that when it was off, it was because it wasn't good, right?
Yes.
Did you think having a baby was going to make it better?
No.
Your parents, did they have other children?
Yes.
How old are they?
We're all 2 years apart. I have older brothers and sisters.
So all of a sudden, your mother's taking care of a baby again?
Yep.
Terrific. And you don't even live in the same state.
No, ma'am.
Do your parents see their grandchild?
No.
I'm suggesting to you that you just think about things before you do them. Like buying an expensive piece of equipment on credit. Now, you want to tell me how that came about?
He was going to school and working at the same time, and he was working nights, so for him to wake up and go to the library to use a computer and all that, it was too difficult and too time-consuming, so he asked me to get him a computer on my
play
credit.
with your nails.
Sorry. He asked me to get him a computer on my account because he has bad credit. My parents paid for his bankruptcy, which was a couple months prior. He got that all settled, and then in February of the next year, I got him the computer. And 3 weeks later, we broke up.
Were you pregnant when they paid for his bankruptcy?
No.
Your Honor, they didn't pay for my bankruptcy. It was $600 for me to file bankruptcy. I only had $400 of it at the time, $100 that I didn't have to go ahead and file for it.
Did you pay him back?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he did not. My father would not take the money from him.
But you offered
I
it.
offered the money.
Oh, that's fine. So, you put it on your credit card. When you left, what was the discussion about the computer?
That he would have it paid off by August before the finance charges started coming in.
Oh, so you bought it for 6 months free financing. And you did discuss it when you left?
Yes.
Tell me about the discussion.
He said that he would have it paid off by August before the finance charges because he didn't want to pay any extra money on it. He told me to go ahead and send in for the $100 rebate and send that in towards the computer, but I never got the $100 rebate back from it.
Did you send in for it?
Yes. I don't know if I put the old address and it just didn't come within the time frame of my change of address or what.
A detail.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Repley. Let me hear.
Okay. We moved in together on January 1st of 2005. I moved her down there from Illinois. That's whenever we got together. And I told her at that point in time, you know, I wasn't in a hurry for her to get a job, but I would appreciate the help. We lived there for 4 months, and then we moved into a more expensive place, and I told her I needed her help at that time. We agreed she would pay half the bills and half the rent to help me out, as well as I was going to school full-time and working full-time. So whenever she left, she said, okay.
No. Okay, you needed help. And when you told her you needed help and she agreed to pay for half of the expenses, sir, in what month was that?
That was in February of 05.
And in what month did she become pregnant?
I believe it was September, October.
August.
Between February of 05 and August of 05, did she work?
For about a month, Your Honor.
Did you work?
I worked for about 3 months.
Who did you work for?
I worked for temp service.
What'd you do with your money?
Gave it to him.
You contributed your money to the household?
No, ma'am.
And we got a car together, and I paid for the car payment, the gas,
Whatever.
and
She wasn't
insurance.
spending the money on drugs.
No.
So she was contributing what she could to the household. And in August, you became pregnant.
Yes.
So you stopped working?
No. I was working up until November.
So you stopped working, and you didn't contribute anymore?
No.
All right, now you tell me, sir, about the conversation you had about the computer when she left.
Whenever she left, her family came to Indiana to help her pack up to move back. And she said, you know, she only worked for a total of, it might have been 2 or 3.
I don't care. I don't care, sir. That's irrelevant to me.
But she owed me for the half of the rent for all the
She
months
doesn't
that
owe
she
you for
didn't
anything.
work.
I just want to know what she said.
She said, you can have the computer for the money that I owe you for all the expenses that you've paid to take care of me during this time.
You mean you never had the conversation with her, I'll pay you for this computer by August?
At the point whenever we broke up, I talked to her a couple months, like
No,
a month
no,
later.
look at
We
me.
were talking.
I asked you a question. That requires a simple answer. Did you ever have a discussion with her that the computer would be paid for by August?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you decide not to do that?
Because I felt that I did not owe her anything, Your Honor.
Well, feel. That's what we're talking about. So you see, you did have the discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does he owe you for the computer?
After everything, it is now $1,750.79.
So, Mr. Repley, this is the situation. If you move in with somebody and things don't work out, that's one thing. She moves on, you move on. Takes two to tango, takes two to make a baby. Takes two to have a problem if they don't want to have a baby. I believe her that she worked on and off, not consistently, not like you did. Maybe that was a good indication that you didn't want to get involved with somebody who was not keeping up their half of the bargain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what you don't do is have a baby with her. And there are things that you can do in order not to do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You owe us $1,750. You still have the computer?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I sold it.
Why?
Because I did a change of jobs and I was hurting on money, so I had to sell the computer.
Well, this is going to hurt even more. So now you don't have the computer, you have to pay for it.
Yes, ma'am.
$1,750. That's all. Step back.
John Allen claims former friend Karen Stevenson owes for a loan of $1,800.
Mr. Allen, it is your claim that the defendant borrowed some money from you. She's a former girlfriend of yours. Ms. Stevenson says that you're a con guy. She never borrowed any money from you. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Okay. Yes, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we decided to part ways, and we remained friends. On about the middle of September, about a week before I actually loaned her the money, she called me in desperation, said Lisa had taken a checkbook that no longer existed, a checking account, wrote a check out for $1,800. She needed money, that the bank was pressing charges, and
she wrote out a bad check?
Yes, Lisa.
Is Lisa here?
No.
Where is she?
She lives in Florida.
Who does she live with in Florida?
Herself.
What does she do for a living?
She's a cashier.
Ever been arrested?
No.
Ever been charged with crime?
Lisa? No.
Lisa?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So at the time when she called me, she said, I need this money. If I don't pay
Look
this
at me.
$1,800 back.
For Lisa?
For Lisa, they're going to arrest me because it was drawn on my bank account. So...
Wait just a minute. Where do you live?
Salisbury, Maryland.
You live in Maryland, and somehow Lisa got hold of one of her old checkbooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa forged a check for $1,800.
Yes.
But there was no longer an account.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa cashed a check in Florida.
Somewhere, I don't know actually, when she said, but it was a check written on this account, and it bounced, so the bank was going to press charges, and if she didn't pay the money back, they were going to put her in jail.
Put who in jail?
Karen. It's not true.
She didn't write a bad check.
Well, that's what she told me, ma'am.
That sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't that sound ridiculous? How old are you?
I'm 40, be 42 in March, ma'am.
42. What do you do for a living?
I have a few businesses. I'm going back to school, getting my real estate degree, and
What kind of businesses do you have?
I have a business running a company. I started in 1990.
What does it make? What does it do?
Well, I buy and resell food as like a Cisco or a U.S. food service.
You do that now?
No, right now I am in the process of going back to school. The company.
So now you don't do anything?
No, the company still exists. I'm collecting my accounts receivables and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am. I'm still in the process. I have real estate I'm selling. I do various different things.
Who do you live with?
I live with my brother right now. I'm in the process of selling my real estate.
You're in a process of doing an awful lot, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Are you in the process of going through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am.
Did you go through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Did you ever apply for a bankruptcy?
No,
Did you
ma'am.
ever consult with a lawyer about a bankruptcy?
Yes, I have.
When?
I consult with my lawyer in September, August, September, October, just discussing.
September of 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
About the same time that she was asking for some money?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why would you consult with an attorney about a bankruptcy, sir?
I'd just gone through a divorce. That you know, the settlement of property had to be dispersed. I had loans with my company, just seeking my different options, you know, out there. It was discussed, but it was never gone through. I'm in a process of selling my assets to pay debts. That was my choice to do it that way. You know, I want to make sure all of my bills are paid. That's why I'm selling my home, other real estate. I have a $1.5 million piece of business real estate that I'm in the process of selling.
What's the mortgage on it?
$790,000.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in June of '04.
In whose name is it?
It's in my company's name.
Which is?
Paradise Produce Company Incorporated.
Who else is a partner in Paradise Produce?
Nobody. I'm
current on your mortgage payments?
Not at this time, no. They are in the process of being sold right now.
Is there a contract for the sale of the property?
Yes, there is a contract for the sale of the property. It's pending on other things, you know, that's going on in the community. So.
You got a lot going on. You got a lot going
yes,
on in
ma'am,
your life, Mr.
I'm a very
Rowell.
active man.
You're a lot going on.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so she asked you for this $1,800, and what did you do, sir? I just wanted to get a sense, because I have to figure out who's pulling my leg and who's not.
I wrote her this check out from one of my bank accounts. I have numerous bank accounts because I have personal things, business things, and all that. And I actually wrote it out to her name and put loan on the memo. I handed this check to her on September 26th, and she took it, and I said, you can go right down the road and cash this check at my bank.
Where did you give it to her?
I gave it to her in the shopping center parking lot. I met her in Del Mar, Delaware, on the Delaware side. So that night, she called me back. She says, well, I don't think I can cash this check. I've lost my license, and I don't have a current checking account. I said, well, you can go right to the bank and cash this. I said, I made it out to you, and there's money in the checking account. She said, no, I'd rather you go to the bank and cash a check. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I said, but I would need this other check back. So the next day, I went to Laurie. This is my witness, Laurie Collins. Can I bring her forward, Judge? Or?
Who are you?
I'm a friend of John's.
What kind of a friend?
Close family friend for over 30 years.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went by Laurie's house. I discussed it with Laurie. I said, Laurie, I'm going to probably loan some money. I have loaned some money. She wants me to take the check back and go to the bank and cash the check and give her the $1,800. And Laurie said, well, just make sure that you keep this check here, the first check, if she gives it back to you.
First check is of no value.
Right.
Unless I can test for fingerprints on it.
Right. And then the second check is I wrote her name in the memo. That I cashed this check. Here's
yeah, well, that's what you wrote.
And I went to the bank.
You cashed the check and wrote her name in the memo.
Right. So I told Laurie, I said, Laurie, I have loaned this lady some money. I said, as a friend, I just wanted somebody to know that I had loaned her the money.
Was she there when you gave her the money?
No, ma'am.
Good. Sit down.
And at the time I wrote the check out, I have bank accounts with different amount of figures in it. You know, right now, $25,000 on this. If I needed it, she claims that I needed the money for myself. I don't need it.
Just show me the account where you took out the $1,800.
Yes, right there.
Okay.
Your Honor, he states that the first check that he wrote me, he had $1,800 in that account. That's the check he first gave me. I subpoenaed his bank records. $1,800 was not in there. He had
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. He had $72.79 in that account.
Let me see. Can I see that check, please? Sir, you wrote her a check on 9/26 for $1,800. You didn't have $1,800 in that account.
Right.
On which you wrote this $1,800 check.
Right.
Well, why would you write her an $1,800 check and tell her to go?
Because I was going to make a deposit in the account. I moved money from different checking accounts. I have interest-bearing accounts with my business and everything like that. I move money when I need money to pay bills like in the business.
Yeah, but you didn't move any money here, sir. You didn't move any money here. 3 days later...
She gave me the check back because she said that she couldn't cash it.
I understand that.
Because she didn't have a license.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
That was not the same day, sir. You already testified. It was the next day that she called you and said, I don't have a driver's license, and therefore I can't cash this check.
Right.
Now, you had already told her to go and cash the check, which she could have done on 9/26.
That's right.
Okay? On 9/26, if she went to your bank
Yes, ma'am.
And deposited that check. They would not have cashed that check because there was no balance in that account.
They could have moved the money from my business account, which is with the same bank, to cover my overdraft.
There's no overdraft privilege in here.
I'm sorry, I did lend this lady some money.
Go ahead.
He also says he gave me the $1,800. I was leaving that day to go out of town for a wedding. I was running around getting my nails done, my hair done. He didn't give me $1,800.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, let's start out with the conversation that you had with him about Lisa.
There was no conversation about Lisa. He knows she was in town for maybe a week or two. She moved back to Florida. I don't have a checking account. I don't have any checks. I haven't had a checking account in 3 years.
So you never had a discussion with him about a loan?
No.
Never had a discussion with him about giving you any money?
No.
Why do you think he would make up this convoluted story?
Your Honor, his business account had been frozen because he owes so many people money. Okay? He couldn't even make payroll. John and I continued to talk. We were good friends. He wanted me to help him take the money out of his county bank and put in a safety deposit box, put in my name, and he wanted to put the cash in there so they couldn't touch that money. Then I told him I didn't want to be involved in that because they're going to want to know where this $21,000 is. I didn't want that in my name. I didn't want any part of that. He tried to get several people to do that, and I wouldn't do it.
So what you're saying is he tried to get several people to accept checks?
Yes.
From him?
Yes.
And squirrel away the money?
Yes.
In the event he decided to go through this with this bankruptcy?
Absolutely.
Keep going.
I mean, he says in one statement that I was supposed to pay him back in 2 weeks. John and I continue to be friends. He had a surprise birthday party for his brother. I was invited.
Don't tell me. Just tell me about the money.
There was.
When you told him that you didn't want to participate in this scheme,
yes,
what did he say to you?
That he had a couple other people that were thinking about taking the money and putting it in a safety deposit box, storing his personal property so it wouldn't be auctioned off, which it has been.
What personal property did he want to store with you?
Pool tables, big screen TV, four-wheeler, living room furniture, kitchen furniture, I mean, bedroom suits. He had a 2-story house fully furnished. All that stuff has been auctioned off.
They've been auctioned off by whom?
An auctioneer.
At whose?
I guess at his request. I really don't know. I know that his house was for sale.
Did you have an auction?
Yes, ma'am, I did. To pay my debts and everything. The pool table, big screen TV, all that stuff was auctioned off to pay debts that I incurred during the divorce. I am in process of selling 2 pieces of property, a business piece of property, all my assets to pay my debts. I am not filing for bankruptcy. I am
well,
going to be
it's a little more difficult now to file for bankruptcy.
Yes, ma'am.
Because what you're suggesting to me is if you own a piece of property that's worth $1.5 million and you have a $790,000 mortgage.
Yes, ma'am.
If you file for bankruptcy, you're not going to see any of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to see any of that money, if you pay off your creditors now, then you'll be able to maybe walk away with a couple $100,000.
No, ma'am, I'm not going to walk away with anything. My assets are about $2.2 million. I owe about $2.1. So, time I pay auctioneers, realtors, all that stuff.
So it doesn't pay for you. So you have assets of $2 million and you have debts of about the same. So you can't go into bankruptcy. That doesn't mean you're bankrupt. It just means that you have to go to work. Business people, you have mortgages, you have attorneys, you have all kinds of other things. And you're not unfamiliar with court.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you come to a court and you say, I made a loan to this lady. Put your hand down. I made a loan to this lady. I did not memorialize that loan in any way. This check is of no value.
Right.
Because she never endorsed it. I can take out my checkbook and write out a check to Petrie Hawkins Bird in the amount of $10,000 and say, I gave him this check.
Right.
He gave it back to me, and I gave him the 10 grand in cash. And this is some evidence that I gave him that money, right?
Right.
I didn't give you any money to him. No. So this is evidence of nothing.
Right.
The only evidence that it is, sir, is that she subpoenaed this bank account, which says at the time you allegedly wrote this check out to her, you didn't have sufficient money to cover the check in the bank.
Right.
Now, you did have another bank.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you could have written a check that would have cleared.
Right.
As a matter of fact, according to you, you did just that 3 days later. You didn't go to this bank, where you could have moved money around. You went to this bank where you took out $1,800. All of this leaves me with a very uneasy feeling, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I have a very uneasy feeling, sir, the fact that you brought a witness that says that you told her all about this loan is of no value. So, Mr. Allen, it is possible, just possible, that you loaned her $1,800.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You understand my problem with your proof, sir?
I understand. I understand.
Are you sympathetic with me, sir?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.